Hey guys, welcome to episode 265 of 4Play Animecast. We are in, I guess, the first half of the winter 2025 season. Everybody here in I guess at least in the United States, I don't know about what's happening over there near, but has been getting hit with a bunch of cold waves, snow that's been a little bit rough recently, but we are here. It is 10:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on the East Coast of the United States. I am your host, Spire, and with me today are my compatriots, as usual, Near,
Hi.
Toast.
Where's the snow? I want snow.
The snow I have here is like the super like dense snow, so you can't shovel it out properly, and it's like really
What?
annoying, and
Fun.
it gets
I
like
got
Fun,
iced
I,
fun.
really.
I got barely
Yeah.
anything for a while.
Yeah. They got like three snowfalls like back to back to back over like the couple of days. So it would just like they clear the roads and we'd be like, "Ah, all right, screw this." And then it happened again and happened again and ice over the windows and everything. So it was a little bit unpleasant, but anyways, and obviously we have Dark here with us as well.
Hello.
All right, so let's just go over 2 weeks on. Nier, again, starting with you. Brief 2 weeks.
Um, I've been playing Mahjong, believe it or not.
All right.
Um,
The match stall.
yeah. I've also been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals. I've been molding the absolute
Ah,
fuck.
yes.
I've been like
You
legitimately
should
crashing
expect that
out.
though, to be fair, from that
Yeah,
sort of game.
yeah, you do, but
Yeah.
um, you don't really expect like just how stupid some people can be, you know. It
Uh-huh.
really is impressive sometimes just how fucking dumb some people are. But such is life.
Yeah,
Yeah, other
yeah.
than that, playing gacha games, the huge. Um,
Okay.
You know what gotcha game you should play near?
what?
You should play Daphne.
Uh-huh. I think
Infinity
I'm good,
Nikki.
man. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much
Okay.
it for me. Just the huge,
All right. Pretty good.
the
What
status
about you,
quo,
Dark?
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not
At
getting
least,
absorbed into the United States of America.
yeah.
Yeah, yet. Yet.
Yeah.
Not getting sucked into the
The comic book
idiocracy, I would say.
villain
Yes,
fucking
exactly.
nation that you guys are becoming, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, Dark, what about you?
I've also been doing a decent amount of gacha, a lot of Zenless, some Nikkei still. I gotta like catch up in Nikkei again now. Uh, watch Nier go through some of the was it the Arcanite's Enfield beta? That looks fun. That looks cool. I'm excited
Mhm.
for that to come out. I've been going through some backlog of games. Finally finished Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Moved on to FF7 Remake today. So getting through some of this stuff because I wanted to get some stuff
Remake
off
part
my
one
hard
or
drive.
two?
Remake Part 1 because I'd
Okay.
bought it when it was on sale and then just like never played it. And yeah, because Spider-Man's coming out, so I wanted to clear up some of my hard drive of some
Mhm.
other smaller, not smaller, but some other games I was like closer to beating.
Okay.
Other than that, kind of just been doing the other usual MMO crap. Um, yeah, I don't think anything super major. Oh yeah, got through the new season of Castlevania Nocturne. That was big. That was very good. So, you know,
You and I have differing opinions on that.
yeah.
It looks good, but I don't think much got done
They literally
compared to
resolve the major plot point
not yeah,
that
but
was
not much
in
got done when
season
you
1.
compare it to the original. And when they that plot, the first plot got resolved, I don't think much got resolved in this one.
What do you mean? You mean like versus like not Nocturne Castlevania?
When they defeated Dracula versus when they
Oh
when they
yeah, I
resolve
mean
this one. Yeah, it doesn't feel
Castlevania. Yeah, I
as
mean, but
resolved.
I think that Castlevania, like the first, especially the first season of
I want
Castlevania,
to.
non-Nocturne, is more down to the fact that they weren't sure whether or not they were even going to be able to make another one. I think it was more of that than
I
anything.
will say the last 2 episodes full of action, pretty good. But I
Yeah,
felt the other 6 or so were a slog to get through.
I don't think there was a slog. There was definitely downtime in parts of
The
it.
Maria
But
parts were good. The other cast, not much happening.
Anyways, thank you very much, Dark, for your 2 weeks. What about you, Toast?
Did Fauna graduate yet in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
not
Maybe.
only did she graduate, been reborn.
I don't know what
But
you're
yeah,
talking about, dude.
yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, man. But there's this new VTuber called Anime Nightmare. She's pretty cool. You should look her up. She's got 500k subs already.
Okay, so anything else?
She's pretty cool, but man, I wish her VODs would stay up.
Yeah, it's
She
weird.
keep
It's
she
weird
keeps
that
having
they
to
keep
edit
needing
her
it.
VODs,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
weird.
kind of weird.
Okay, anything else?
Uh, Daphne's still pretty cool.
Okay.
Once you roll enough to get your main team, it plays just like any usual like first person dungeon crawler, pretty much. I I got my full team of good characters, and I haven't felt a need to really roll or change up my party at all. I'm good for the rest of the game so far. So I mean, I guess that's a plus. It's a
Okay.
good game.
Uh,
Still balls hard though. I keep one wrong misstep and your party gets wiped, even if you're max level.
hmm. Okay, pretty good then. Thank you for your 2 weeks. And I guess wrapping up here, I haven't done too much, been running around a little bit, again, kind of recovering from the eh, f- essentially I got a flu that was going around a lot in Japan. Apparently got it even in the news. And then after the flu, I was recovering, but trying to recover while still working in the cold, then kind of ended up catching like a bug or having extended secondary symptoms on the end of it. So now I have a slight cough. I'll be muting the mic a little bit here and there, but been overall pretty quiet. I um still played a little bit of Path of Exile, but then kind of stopped doing it as much because because all the maze running that I keep having to do, I'm like, I don't really want to run around this maze that much.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of a
Why
little
aren't you playing with
intimidating when your
Pekora?
first thought is, "Damn, do I really want to spend like 20 minutes clearing a map the moment I fucking hop back onto this?"
yeah, I mean, I only play essentially like what happens every year is I play some RPG that vaguely gives me something like a RuneScape vibe or like a Diablo vibe or whatever, right? And that's like I just get that urge every once in a year. And I think like Path of Exile would have like lasted a little bit better, but yeah, it's a little bit too much like just running around not doing stuff. So I kind of got bored of it. But or it's not boring, it's just a little bit too tedious. But
Yeah, I mean, like I
uh,
said, it's like a what would you call that? Like not foreboding, intimidating. Like it's some other word I'm trying to think of where it's like, you're like, do I really want to get
burdensome,
through this part to get
burdensome
the?
kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah. It's like, yeah, do I really
Yeah,
want to get through this to get to like the good parts right
yeah,
now? It's like,
yeah, exactly,
really,
exactly. So
especially, yeah,
it's a little
especially
bit,
knowing, there's gonna be improvements and changes and shit.
yeah. So that's that. I still need to pack out and send out my the stuff I got for Comic Kit. Just like the one guy that I was getting Comic Kit stuff for ordered like requested like $200. I think not even $200, like $300+ worth of freaking what is it like Kanata? Is it like acrylic stands and tapestries and shit? So now I gotta like book that up, pack it over. So it's gonna be a little bit interesting. But at least things are warming up, so I can actually go out around now instead of being like, oh, my eyeballs are burning whenever I walk outside. So overall, pretty quiet. But
That's the sun reflecting out the snow. Maybe you should get those Inuit sunglasses with just the slits.
I don't think it's necessarily. I mean, that could be, but I don't think it's necessarily the major portion of it when it's when I'm driving outside and minus like minus 11, minus 14 degree Fahrenheit weather, and
Wait,
it's like
how are you getting blinded? Do your do your glasses not have the thing where they change colors outside? Automatic UV protection?
no, I don't have that. I just have like very
What?
basic
Bro didn't
glasses.
splurge the extra like $20 it is now for
Doesn't
transition
that come
lenses.
standard on everything now?
No,
No,
that's an
I mean,
optional fee,
I know that
but
there
it's
are
pretty cheap now.
those glasses.
Like
Yeah, I know
it's like
that there are those glasses,
$25
but I
now or
don't
some
have
shit.
those. Yeah, I usually just end up getting
There's
basic
UV
stuff.
protection and then there's blue light protection. You didn't get the whole package.
The blue light
Why
protection
not?
sucks. The blue light protection
Yeah,
is first of all, the blue light shit is like fake to begin with. Like it's questionable as to whether or not
true.
that's even like
Which
really
part?
a thing. The idea
Which
that it like actually disrupts your like circadian rhythm and shit, it's like
oh, I mean,
there
yeah,
have
that
been
shit's.
studies that are like not really.
I mean, it's definitely bad for your eyes, but
Yeah, I mean like it's definitely like you could reduce your eye strain, but it's also like, you could do a 20-20-20 method as well where you
yeah.
every 20 minutes stare at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds and it's like
You can't do that while you're gaming, my dude.
just
What
don't
if you're
start
what
up
if
something
you're
for
in a
20
Marvel
minutes.
Rivals match? You're like, oh, hold on, guys, I gotta stare at the
Yeah,
wall for
listen,
20
if you're in
seconds.
a Marvel Rivals match, your health is degrading far
Fair.
faster anyway. So,
Yeah.
really,
Mainly the mental health.
yeah, you're going to lose your
But
eyesight by gouging them out of frustration.
anyways, but yeah, it's been pretty quiet for me overall, but that's been pretty much it. And I guess with that, we should head on over to our first series or first review. Dark, what do you have for us?
Okay, I've got a little series known as
Do you want me to read it
Sentai.
off here?
What is
Yeah.
this? Sentai de Isekai de Boukensha ni Naru.
Yes.
The Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world.
Yeah. The premise seemed good at least during the previews, or
Yeah,
better than the
premise
others.
is good. Um, so this series is basically in the final battle against the evil exterminators, Togo Asagaki. Okay, first of all, this is not what you're supposed to say. He's a Sentai Ranger, not a Power Ranger, idiots.
Every
you
time these
you
days where
cannot
Dark
say
starts
that.
reading out the description, yeah, where Dark starts reading out the description, he experiences more and more of the pain I felt in the years before
Yeah,
where
I
I was
mean,
like
this is
reading the
more so
description.
it's like you can't be
Yeah.
out here calling Sentai Rangers. You can't be like Togo Asagaki, a Power Ranger,
Yeah,
traded his life
exactly.
for the enemies. Like, yeah, you can't do that.
Uh,
Anyway, so yeah,
uh,
Asagaki
they
is a
should call
Sentai
them
Ranger.
powerful rangers, just like
Powerful
how they called
Ranger.
them in Akiba Ranger.
Yeah.
A masked
But
ranger. Yeah,
yeah.
it seemed what was it? It seemed like everything was over, but suddenly he found himself in another world. He becomes an adventurer, transforming into Kizuna Red and continues fighting to save people in trouble. Here he meets a young wizard named Idola, and his journey in the new world begins.
Is it
So that's
Idola or
basically a good
Idola?
coverage of it.
Because I remember Idola like PSO2 Idola.
I don't know who Idola is. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Idola is the black-haired magician.
Her name is Yidra Arvel.
What?
Yeah.
Idora Avon? Okay.
Idora? So yeah, that's Idola.
Yeah, I guess
Idra,
it's
yeah, it's
Idola.
Idra,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, they just
What the
the sort of
hell?
Yeah,
the
I guess in
straight pronunciation from Japanese kana or from katakana is Idora, but then the full like English localized version is also shown as Idra,
yeah.
essentially.
But
So that's what they kind of
that's I've always pronounced it Idola. I don't know. Whatever.
yeah. But anyways, yeah, that's the black mage here.
But yeah, the basic premise is obviously like, this guy like Togo was the Red Ranger in a Super Sentai group, and they were like the Kazuna Rangers. Their whole gimmick, like Sentai has, is that they were like, bonds and like connections and stuff, whether it be friendships or marriage and just gimmicks like that. Was it is essentially
You,
like all the call outs and everything.
you know another
Um,
series that has a main focus on bonds and friendship?
yeah,
But
what?
Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. What do you think synchros are about?
Okay. But
Yeah.
yeah. So anywho, yeah, so like that's like the basic Super Sentai gimmick. He comes with everything like his like wrist accessory to transform. Um and yeah, he has everything a ranger would have. He's got a gun, he's got a sword. They all have their own gimmicks. It's like a handshake like sword. That turns into a twin blade when the hands shake. Um, and yeah, he's got like a blaster with different call outs. Um, he's got different supers. They have like the giant robot that has like their bond, like a bond like robot thing. The weird thing is that for some reason he has the robot. I don't know how he has the Red Ranger piece and the Green Ranger piece and the Blue Ranger
He can
piece.
summon all of them is the
Yeah, I don't know
question.
how he can
He's
do
got the
that.
full
That doesn't
Megazord.
doesn't make no sense. They're all supposed to summon their own pieces and then they're supposed to connect, but whatever.
So the focus in this series, as far as I know, as far as what it kind of seems like, is the focus it really isn't on like building the inorganic parts of the world and like that sort of part of the lore. It's just like just
Nah,
the
it's
Red
literally
Ranger
Red
just running
Ranger
around doing
shows
cool
up in an
things.
Isekai world and
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah. It
does
just
Red
does cool stuff.
Ranger type shit.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously like the gimmick is Idra. She like does this whole casting thing in episode 2. And she casts like a spell that kills like a single orc thing, and then Togo transforms and uses his like sword and does a finishing move and kills like 14 at the same time, and then they explode.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like basically the gimmick where it's like like he has the power level of like a ranger, so he's like one-shotting everything, and doing like Super Sentai moves and poses, and like smoke is exploding, like colored smoke. There's like, just regular explosions happening when he like cuts an enemy for some reason, stuff like that. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, they like play that up. The unfortunate part, and I'll just say that this about the series, I'll just get into this right away, is that this kind of like is the only thing it does. Right? Like
What do you mean by that?
there's like no substance whatsoever in the isekai world. So it's like, by episode 2, like episode 2 is done and I'm like, okay, yeah, I've seen everything. I've seen the giant robot, I've seen the sword, I've seen the finishers. So like who gives a shit? Like
What
is
are they
now
quote
it going to
unquote
start to build up
saying?
a
So
story?
like
Like
what is the story quote unquote saying that they're gonna do? Right? Like
they're
what are they supposed to
so
be saying
episode
though?
1 and 2, Idra just wants him to help her gather like mana crystals that form on the
So it's
land to
dungeon crawling?
study them.
Like episodic dungeon crawling?
Yeah, yeah, I guess. And then, but the problem is like episode 2 ends with it introducing the other two mains, which is like a blue-haired guy and a blue-haired girl, and it seems like the blue-haired guy is going to be like the hero, like the actual like hero in the world, like a paladin type,
Oh,
sword
okay, okay, okay,
user.
okay.
And then
Yeah,
the
because
girl
the Red Ranger
seems
is
to be
supposed to
like
be like the sort of alternate. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, he's like the main character, you know. So it's gonna be like a thing where it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
these
yeah.
two essentially like mains come together or something or butt heads. Not really sure.
Uh-huh.
But ultimately, like it seems like they're doing this thing where they're finding like evil, like giant evil guys that have these dark seed things that are like parasitically leeching off of them and like controlling them and shit.
Mm.
But ultimately it's like regardless of where that goes, I'm kind of just already done with this series after 2 episodes because it's like I've already seen everything like with the Red Ranger. Like you've shown me pretty much everything. Like what like you know, like what are you gonna do next? It's like, oh, he gets like a new form and stuff like that. And it's like, all right, but this is like
How many episodes has it been since like
only
you
two. It's
guys
been
showed up?
two. And I'm just like,
Oh, okay.
who cares? You know what I mean? Like it's like, all right, like this is all this shit's gonna be. Like, sure. But this Isekai world is uninteresting. This plot line is gonna be like, who cares? Because the world itself is like completely nothing. Like literally the more interesting thing is when they do flashbacks where Togo is thinking about his past experiences with like the villains, the Super Sentai villains, right? Like
Yeah, because
that's
I think
way
the
more interesting
standard
because it's
the
just a Super
standard
Sentai
sort of
series at that point.
yeah, because I think the standard quote unquote fun variant, right, is when because this character, the Red Ranger, is not meant to be again the main hero, as you implied, because there is already what it's supposed to be is it's a variant of the I am a Dark Knight, or I'm just like a regular like healer or like a regular
Yeah, I'm
or
the
healer that was banished
swordsman.
from the party, or I'm the swordsman or whatever, but he's actually secretly the strongest, and he either gets rejected by the hero or he's
Yeah,
always
or it's like the
compared to
fantasy
the
world.
hero,
I think
right?
yeah, I think this is like the fantasy world where it's like, yeah, this dude is the quote unquote like hero. He's gonna be like the hero class, right? Like he's a sword
Mm.
user that gets like all the magic and shit like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
Um,
like that sort of like comedic shtick, that sort of constant comparison and comedic shtick is supposed to be the core, usually the standard core of these series,
yeah, I
but
mean
that's
that
not
hasn't,
happening,
like I
and
said,
nothing else
that
is
hasn't
really
happened
happening,
yet.
right?
Like that hasn't happened
Yeah.
yet, and it obviously like it could start happening because once they've come together. But for me, it's like the actual world space is already boring.
Mm,
The other world seemed way more interesting because it was an actual like just Sentai setup.
mm,
Um, none of the characters are particularly compelling right now either. Ija is not interesting like whatsoever. Literally, the only thing about her is yeah, she has big boobs. Like that's it. That's the only fucking like character trait she has. And then she's supposed to be like the straight man character to Togo doing all this crazy stuff, but
yeah, exactly.
all her character winds up boiling down to is being like is just saying what's happening on screen and being
Mm,
like that's not supposed to happen. Like, oh my god, why'd they explode? Oh my god, why is there colorful smoke? Oh my god,
yeah.
this is weird. This doesn't belong here. And it's like I know I'm watching the fucking series. Like this is not how like a straight man is supposed to be behaving in a fucking in something like this. It's like this is like exceptionally like lazy, like a very lazy way to do this.
Mm.
Like obviously it's like maybe it gets better as the series goes on and like more characters are introduced, but I really feel like it's just going to lead to more scenarios of other characters than being like, "Oh my god, how did this happen? What is that thing? Like what is going on?" It's just not like who cares, man? I really would
Well,
have
I
much
mean, the
rather have
thing
seen
is
a
that
series where it's like you obviously get that shock of other characters, but them going along
mm,
with it and it actually being played out as like a just a regular action adventure isekai where like the
yeah, I
plot
think
already kicks off
the
right away.
yeah, I think the bigger thing or the biggest part of this implication is to me, that sort of, "Oh my god, you can do those things? You're actually the strongest?" That's like a very standard shtick, like comedic shtick, and even just a story narrative shtick, although it shouldn't be, in these isekai series, right? It's like, "You're secretly the strongest? What?" And that like ad nauseum, right? So that part isn't as troubling to me, although it's not good, right? But the issue is that if you're just going to rely on that sort of shtick to those sorts of shticks to add value to your story, you also need to have a central evolving story to begin with, right? So that people
Yeah, because
actually
it's
can
like,
grab onto
yeah,
something.
because it's like you
But if
can
you
look
don't have
at
that,
that happening
yeah.
in something like, I mean, granted, it's not like, oh my god, like you're the strongest type thing, but it's like even something like campfire cooking or like the campfire cooking isekai or something like Slime Tensei, where it's like, whoa, you got like this ability, like blah blah blah. But it's like, yeah, there is a central plot actually happening here, like from the get go, and there's like
Mhm.
world building going on here beyond
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
beyond just being like, what if Sentai guy was in fantasy world
And was awesome, yeah, exactly.
and was doing like Sentai stuff, and it's like, okay, like I'm familiar with Sentai stuff, so like I get nothing out of Idra being like constantly just being like that thing is happening. I mean, also, and again,
Mhm.
like you're showing it on screen. Like it would be much better if these things were happening and being introduced in like far more organic fights and was just happening like while a full cast of characters is like fighting a horde of goblins or something. And like, yeah, like
Mhm.
the shtick will be like one of them will look over and seeing like Togo like exploding enemies and just be shocked or something and then getting back into the fight after that, like right after. Like something like that. Like,
Right.
you don't need that level of commentary on the thing that you're being shown. Um and yeah,
Or
and that
rather,
just winds up
it can get very
becoming very
repetitive if
annoying.
it's just sold as the center piece of the entire story, not as, oh, a shtick that's like a standard shtick that's like on the side, but like the thing. Like this is the only thing you have. Right? It's like
Yeah, it's like it constantly happens in this show. Like it's not like this is something that happens like, oh, just in episode 1 or like only like one time or something or anything like that. It's like it kept happening throughout episode 2, like during episode 2, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to watch. It's like, yeah, no, I don't want to continue with this. Like whatever, man. Like
yeah,
this is not great. Like
uh,
the other problem is too, and I'll get into it right now, is this is, oh, by the way, this is a manga original by a manga adaptation by Satellite, and now this is Satellite doing this. And this is also like the audio visuals are not good, right? Like they're not the worst in certain parts, like they're fine. But then like a lot of it is really just like shoddy, right? Like this is very
mhm.
much a lot of recent shit from Satellite, whether it be the Yokai Gakko no Sensei series, which obviously like you look didn't it was not exactly a looker. Tasuketsu, which was also not a looker. Kuro no Shokanshi, which was not a looker either. It has really bad CG on certain monsters. Decent CG on the Ranger, like pretty serviceable, but for some reason, like some, some monsters were okay, and then like one monster in particular in like episode 2 looked like absolute shit. Um,
Mhm.
which was weird. So yeah, just very strange stuff all around. The transformations are not particularly exciting. There's not like a really cool
Oh, that's
Megazord
criminal
like
though,
coming
because it's like
together. Yeah, like
if you're putting yeah, if you're putting that Red Ranger as a centerpiece, you can't have bad transformations.
yeah, like I mean like he does like a pose and stuff, but then he just kind of like glows and then transforms and it's like okay. Like I mean like his is like
Mhm.
fine, but like like the like Megazord type thing like coming in doesn't really have anything crazy. Like it's nothing like like you would expect like some shit out of recently like a parody series like Bravern or something, right? Like a
Mhm.
like
Yeah, Braven was good.
something like that or like the big robot in what was it called? Not the like follow-up series to the Gridman, the Sentai series version, the robot, the super robot one follow-up to Gridman.
Dynazenon?
Dynazenon. Like something like that you would hope for, and it's like no, you
Mm.
literally like get nothing. It just like kind of is here. Um,
But what about the jingle?
which is a shame. I mean, the jingles and stuff are cute. Like, they're fine. Like I said, like that type of stuff is fine, right? Like even these stuff that they're covering, like Sentai wise, the things they're adding is like fine, but with the audio visuals not being great, and then the plot being like realistically like nothing grabbing, the world building like not really being there, and then the actual like utilization of those Sentai things being followed up by like another character being like, oh my god, that thing is happening that you're looking at,
Right.
that is happening. It's like, that is annoying. So then like this series just kind of winds up being like why would you bother watching this? Like, either watch a fucking Isekai series or just watch a Sentai series. Like, there's a lot. If you have not seen every single good Super Sentai series or Ultraman series or Kamen Rider series, there's a hell of a lot of other stuff you could watch instead of this.
Yeah,
And get a
it's
much better experience out of it.
yeah. It's a little bit unfortunate because I think this could have at least panned out as like a
Oh,
more
this premise is
as you
incredible.
mentioned.
This
Yeah,
premise, I mean, not incredible, but like it could be incredible, right? Like, if you gave
like
this,
and if it just had like a standard set of like just standard storyboarding, standard script writing, it could have, at worst, it could have turned into a or on average, it could have just turned into one of those, not okay, I was a Dark Knight that teamed up with the hero, but I was secretly the strongest. It could have just turned into one of those variants, and it could have been normal. But I think with this sort of like lack of direction and lack of momentum, it actually became even below average. What would you
yeah,
say?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I would agree. Like, it like I said, like, it had a lot of potential. It's really, really sad to see something like that happen, because it's like,
Yeah.
you could see a series like this, like they could have, and maybe they do get to that, but like, so like I feel like a series like this, it's like need no introduction then, right? Like,
Right.
you do not need to have 2 episodes of fucking setup with him and Idra, and Idra's whole character doing that and being like, look, it's the big boob isekai girl. It's like, yeah, I don't care, man. Like, this shit,
Yeah.
you like, of all the series to not start like a series like how to like using healing magic the wrong way, or like the wrong way to use healing magic, or even that newer series, the what is it, the isekai with like the civil servant or whatever that comes in, the businessman or whatever,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
isn't
I
that
know
this
what you're talking
season?
about. Yeah.
Like a one of the isekais where they're directly summoned to like the king's chambers, like,
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
that, not for
A
this to
headhunted. I
not,
got headhunted or whatever it's
yeah,
called.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that should be what this could have started like then. Like a story
Oh
like
yeah,
this where it's like,
absolutely.
boom, right off the bat, this dude is getting thrown into a party. You're going
Mm.
after the evil generals. And then while
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
going after the evil generals, you can have him do the crazy stuff each episode, have the other characters comment, and then you can have things like what's it called come in. The what do you call it, the flashbacks to like the Sentai thing and how that ties into like whatever
Yeah,
big boss they're
exactly.
fighting
Maybe
this
even
time.
that could end up being kind of a setup, a foreshadowing slash lore for later, right? And that could
Yeah,
like
yeah,
come
for like
back,
a,
and
yeah,
that
and
would
it
also
being
be an
like a
interesting story.
mirror or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, so like
yeah,
in general, like this would have been better served if, I mean, the other thing is too, is that where I feel like this falls short, and like maybe it gets to it, is
hmm,
like tonally, this is kind of like not what you want to see from, like, not what you enjoy from a Sentai series, nor what you would enjoy from like an Isekai series either, right? Like,
mm,
granted, this gets back into the plot, like like the um issues with the plot that we were talking about, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, when you're even like a Super Sentai series, does start to have, or does have from the beginning, like a through line. Like you're immediately introduced to big bads. You're immediately introduced to like the darker aspects of whatever you're about to watch. And like, yeah, these are ultimately going to be like young adult or a kid series, but there is usually a serious or like plot line that you could have like some drama involved in that is already introduced. Right? Like you're not really like, or at least good ones, you're not going to sit there and be like, oh, there's like no stakes for a while. It's like, no, like you kind of know what's happening like right off the bat. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, for it to have this sort of tone just kind of sucks. Like like maybe it'll get into it, but I don't know. Like I much would have rather have had like if this like this might sound weird, but a more serious handling of this. Right? Because this kind
Yeah,
of
because what you're implying is like at least if you had the serious variant, even if like some parts of it was cheesy or like didn't line up, at least it would have a direction, a
yeah,
proper
like
direction to like
the
base
way
stuff
this
on.
stuff is all introduced and this tone is introduced does not make this
Mm.
feel like a love letter to like a Sentai series. Right?
Hmm.
Like that's what I would
It
want
just
to see
seems
from
like,
this. I
oh,
would
I
want to
just
see
need
like a
another.
love
I
letter
just
from
need to
this.
think a variant. Yeah,
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 it's like what if the Red Ranger got pushed into here and like the only
yeah,
thing
yeah.
and like you have a like very not surface reading of Sentai series or surface knowledge, but like the way you're executing it does not feel like you really are like, no, I am like very much into Sentai series.
Right,
This
right.
feels like a Sentai, a Super Sentai joke you would have seen in like that's like a one-off in I don't know, like any sort of I don't know why I can't think of the series right now. The Magical Girl Next Door. I literally love that series. I don't know why I can't think of the title. Machikado. Like this
Oh
seems
yeah,
like a,
I forgot
like
about
a
it. Yeah.
one-off joke you would see in like a series like that, or like any sort of series where it's like a Sentai Ranger shows up and
Right,
then
right,
like they
right,
have
right,
like a
right, right.
comparison or something, but then like goes away. Right? Like
Mhm.
it feels like something like that, like a bit like that, extended through as of right now, like 40 minutes. So it's like,
Mhm.
like you can tell, like, yeah, like the Red Ranger, the shit that happens, like, the theming, how these, like how Sentai Rangers, like, how they function as far as, like, what their, powers are, what their gadgets are, stuff like that. But as far as how you should execute on this, does not feel like you actually, like, wanted to make something like that.
Mhm.
Um, And yeah, and it just feels like just a very schlocky isekai, like bottom of the barrel type basic plot line right now. Like very surface level. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
and
like you're
again,
not
it could
really
have been.
getting the best of any world, really.
Yeah, yeah. Again, the worst part of it is it could have even been made average, not even below average, just average, if they had just taken the standard tools and kind of mixed it around properly. Like, just take the ingredients that are already there, that every like other Naruto or web novel, or not visual novel, web novel, light novel already uses, and just kind of mess around with them a little bit, right? On this
Yeah.
premise, and that'd have been
Yeah, that's
okay.
what I
But
mean. Like,
they didn't even do that.
it feels like they did not. This author does not want to actually like go beyond what the initial premise is, right? Like just the idea.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And
yeah,
doesn't want to
exactly.
really like think about more so of like what, like I said, like what a love letter would be to like a Sentai series
Mhm.
where it's like, what would actually happen if you took a Red Ranger and put it into a fantasy world and like
Mm.
have that actually like play out in a
Yeah, exactly.
remotely interesting like plot line.
Mhm.
That does not seem to be really what has happened here. And it's sad. It's depressing, to be
Yeah.
honest. Uh,
Uh,
yeah, major
what
How
would
many
letdown.
you
episodes are
what
you in?
I mean, there's only 2 out so far. Like I said, like they didn't even
Alright.
really introduce the hero character. But either way, like I said, like those
the
2
best
episodes are
character.
really rough.
The best character will
Mhm.
take a long time to appear. You'll know which one
Yeah,
it is.
that's. I probably won't because I don't know if I'm gonna keep up with this. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is
I
like
will say
that's asking a lot to keep up with.
I will say the plot gets pretty interesting later on, but that's a long way from where you are now.
Mhm.
Do you think the anime is even gonna get to that? Like,
Maybe. What's more important is they get to the good character.
Anyways,
Yeah.
any last words, and also, I guess your rating.
Um. I mean, I don't know. I just like I hope I don't know. Maybe any of this picks up. Maybe it could. I don't really know. I don't think this is gonna be something I keep up with. Maybe when it's all out, I might skim to see if it picks up, but yeah, I don't know. This is definitely like a pretty decent letdown.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
for the first 2 episodes, my rating would be hella lower than Maul. Maul has this at like a 6.7, yeah, 6.8. I think I would give this like maybe like a 4 to a 5 at best right now.
Mhm.
Like this is literally not. I would recommend people honestly like kind of don't check this out.
Yeah.
Like probably don't, you
Yeah,
know?
avoid it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just like no
All
reason
right.
to. At least with the first 2 episodes. Like I said, like it's early, but like, if we're going by like a 3 episoder thing, like that third episode's got to be fucking crazy to make
Mhm.
me want to stick
To
around.
make up for it, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dark. Again, very unfortunate that it couldn't, it wasn't made in a way that it could at least be minimally watchable. But it is what it is. Sometimes these premises kind of just get dropped because of the how the script and the direction is. But it's a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, this was Sentai Retto Isekai de Boukensha ni Naru, or also known as The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventure in Another World. It is a manga original, if I remember correctly, and then
It is.
it became an anime adaptation by Satellite. So again, very fortunate, but it is what it is. Next on the list, again, thank you very much, Dark. We have we have Toast. What do you have for us?
Uh, you like Medaka box?
Uh, I mean, I guess I do. Yes.
I hate Medaka box.
Oh, okay. Oh,
No, I don't.
okay.
I'm lying. It's okay, but freaking Nisio Isin. I'll never forgive you, Nisio Isin.
for what?
ECAC is quite polarizing, but anyways, what do you have for us?
Who's Nisio Isin again?
Just a random author?
He's the Junie Tyson guy, right?
Yes.
Sure is.
Yeah, that series is whack.
Yeah, but
I don't know how to segue this. Uh,
yeah.
I
So
just saw the
speaking
word
of Medaka
Medaka.
box,
Yeah.
yeah. Your series is Kuroiwa Medaka ni Watashi no Kawaii ga Tsuujinai, also known as Medaka Kuroiwa is impervious to my charms. So that's a manga original adapted into an anime by, I believe, Synergy SP Studios, who have done like a lot of supporting kind of animations.
Wow, you know more about this than me.
They
What did they do?
did a
Oh, they
lot of
did.
older series.
I know
Yeah.
they did Hayate. That's a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I think they did the first season of Hayate actually. The second season and onwards, I believe, were done by other studios. I forget if Manglobe started on season 2 or season 3, but yeah, they did like the first season, which was
Initial
a little
D
bit weird.
fifth stage. Oh yeah, they did Mare. Mare was weird.
Yeah, but yeah, they
Uh,
did a lot of older series.
okay, so the premise is there's this chick called Kawaii Mona. Get it? Kawaii. Like Kawaii, but with one eye. Get it?
Yes,
Get it? Get it? And she considers
yes.
herself, I don't know, this super perfect girl. You know, I believe she refers to herself as the queen bee of the school because
Uh-huh.
she's so perfect and beautiful and whatnot, and everyone's falling for her except one guy, the new transfer student, uh, the 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 ep, the title dropper, Kuroiwa Medaka. And whenever she tries to be cute around him, he uh he pinches his forehead and it's like, oh, go away, girls. And he's gross. And she's like, damn, he's not into me. Well, now that makes me even more interested in him. But then the kicker is that Kuroiwa is has no experience with girls because he works at a shrine and whatnot.
So it's like one of those variants, right? Where it's like he's either like a monk, or he's been secluded in the forest for in training for X years, and he comes back and he's like, oh, I want to be pure. I want to be I want to stay away from worldly desires, kind of business, right?
And the kicker is that instead of not being interested in her, he's actually
Huh.
super interested in her because he thinks that
You think so? What?
Damn, bro just got abducted.
Yeah, Toast is cutting off.
whoa, what was that? We good?
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Instead of not being interested in her, he's actually super interested in her because he thinks that she's the most beautiful girl in the world, and it's like, oh, he pinches his forehead because he's trying to recite the monk sutras. He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
evil
Yeah.
thoughts be gone and whatnot. That's why he turns
Yeah.
away from
Worldly
her and
desires.
whatnot.
Women are
Yeah.
evil. It's true.
And then she misinterprets this as, oh no, he hates me. No matter, I must make him fall in love with he. And that's literally the entire first episode and the entire premise of the series.
So is this episodic, or is there like a slow like set of mini arc developments, or like what's
I,
going on here?
we were 3 episodes in, and that's all they've been doing. All 3 episodes,
So it's pretty much
So
just
it's
one of those
episodic?
teasing animes.
I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah.
I
Willy
watched
Wonka.
episode 1, and I fully got the entire premise of this series just from that. The other two
Yeah.
episodes, not much happened. It's cut and dry and repeat that stuff all over again. They introduced one new character who was voiced by Kana Hanazawa, but other than that,
Wow.
like in the first episode, other than the new Kana Hanazawa character, they introduced everyone that looks important to the plot. They got the main character. Who is the main? Who would you call the main character? The boy or the girl? Probably the girl, right? They got Mona, voiced by Serizawa Yu, which is pretty interesting. If you don't know who Serizawa Yu is, I don't either.
Serizawa Yu is relatively prolific voice actress, kind of known for doing a lot of these like live events and being kind of cutesy. Also, one part of the vocal group, Iris, a pretty famous group there out there. But yeah, she's a good
Yeah,
fit for this role, I think, because she does a lot of those like sort of buriko, like pretend to be very like flirty, bubbly, like cutesy kind of roles. Well, so
yeah, that's her. And then I guess you introduced Medaka, And then the whole plot twist at the end of the first episode is like, oh, I actually think she's pretty cute, but I'm going to be a monk, so I have to
Mhm.
stay away from her. And that's like the whole thing of the first episode. And then the two dudes, I guess, Medaka's friends, some guy, and then another guy with glasses. They're like, "Oh, why don't you like Mona-chan? You weirdo! Why'd he turn away from her?" And he's like, "Bro, I'm a monk." They're like, "Oh, we're the only ones in the class that get you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's how it's gonna go." And that's like the four main characters so far.
So there are these like other girls in
They
the
have not
class as
appeared
well?
yet. I have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
I'm guess 100%. I'm guessing they're gonna be the rivals for
Yeah,
this.
I was wondering if they'd be the rivals or whether the shtick will kind of stay true to its roots by literally only having the two in focus, and just like the supporting characters will just be like the background, like the people who just jeer, hoot and holler and just like do running commentary in the background. You know what I mean? Um,
The
but
only person I don't see being part of the whole group, the shtick part, is the character voiced by Kana or Hanazawa, Haruno Tsubomi. Her whole shtick is,
uh-huh.
oh, I I'm a super big Mono fan. I have over 300 pictures
Oh,
taken of her.
okay.
But
Yeah, I see.
but lately, whenever she's around Kuroiwa, she has a different expression. I must know what this expression is. And the whole thing is like, there's some differences in the manga and anime where it's like, oh, in the manga, she's like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Is like, why is Mona hanging around Kuroiwa so much? Like,
Mhm,
is he blackmailing her? But then she figures out like the relationship between the two. But in the anime, it's different. The anime,
mhm,
it's she's less conniving, and it's more like, oh no, I'm Kana Hanazawa. I'm dainty and bubbly. I'm a Kana Hanazawa character, and oh no, you accidentally saw the pictures on my phone of you, and
mhm.
they figured out that I'm a super big Mona fan, and whatnot. So like, there's some character differences there.
Mhm.
Like, instead of her trying to find the like to get to the bottom of this, she kind of stumbles into the answer accidentally. Like, oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah, and sees like the scenes, yeah, with the couple together, stuff like that.
I
So
guess, but yeah, she's like, oh, you have a different expression. Could it be you're actually in love with Kuroiwa? And then Mona
there you
denies it, but it's like, oh, it's this kind of character. I really feel like they changed it because she's voiced by Kana Hanazawa. So like, because the first time they see her in the anime, she's like, when they're doing the whole art thing and posing, she's like constantly looking at Mona, and then when Mona looks at her, she looks away. Like, she's like this like she's this fragile, blushy girl. But in the manga, she sees how much Mona and Kuroiwa are hanging out, and she's like, I must get to the bottom of this. Like, she's a more intelligent character, but in the
uh-huh.
anime, not so much. I really feel like that's a change because of who the voice actor is and
Okay.
whatnot. But yeah,
Do
but yeah,
you so I mean, do you like the stick? Do you find the stick interesting
I
as
got
it's structured in here?
I got bored of it really fast. Like I
Okay,
said,
yeah.
episode one, I you've seen all you need to see,
Yeah.
and it's a very cut and paste, or copy and paste episode flow three times in a row.
Mhm.
Like, even after the introduction of everyone, even episode two and three starts the same. Like, it's Mona running down the street. Everyone's like, "Oh, look at!" Everyone on the street is like, "Oh, look how cute this girl is," and she's like, "Oh, my style's perfect today. My smile's perfect today. I'm the queen bee." And she even jumps over the same puddle, like, of water twice, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Damn, dude, did that
Okay.
puddle not dry up in 24 hours? What's happening here?" It's like shot for shot the same thing, and I'm like,
Mhm.
that's kind of sus.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Uh Can you go over the audio visuals real quick?
Audio visuals, they're fine, I guess. I want to
Oh, okay.
say that if you look at the opening, the the main girls kind of suffer from I don't know how to say the same face syndrome in a way.
Oh, okay,
Or,
okay,
like other
okay.
than the hair color and style, they
Yeah,
all
that's
have the
probably
same
that probably comes
face.
from yeah, probably a little bit unfortunate stuff with the original character designer or the character designer in the
I
anime, probably.
I maybe because I checked out
Hmm.
the manga and the character. I want to say that the character designs are much better in the manga.
Right, right. Yeah,
Like
I think it's then that's a potential issue with how the anime characters were designed initially, like with
yeah,
the character designs. Yeah,
I want to say
well,
it's
which is
because
unfortunate.
yeah, there's a lot more expressions in the manga compared to the anime,
Oh, okay.
and it's a lot better drawing wise and whatnot. Is
Hmm.
do I blame the studio, Synergy SP? I don't know.
I would because I think they've not had like the best track record. I think with their works. It's even like back in the day, like even back in the day with like season one of Hayate no Gotoku, like and they had a lot of money because it's Hayate no Gotoku, right? Um, but even for that time, even for that sort of a year in context, it wasn't that good, which is very surprising again considering that they had a lot of money. So, I don't know. I don't really trust this studio that much, but anyways.
Didn't you like Zettai Karen Children? That was pretty good.
I mean, they've had some like okay runs. It's just that I wouldn't trust them that much overall. But anyways,
What else?
I
Visual or
guess
audio? It's all right, I guess. I don't know. I don't have any outstanding. The opening is. I will say the opening's song, probably top three of this of all of 2025. Just saying. But
what was it? What was the opening?
uh, Ame Tokimeki Koi Moyu or whatever. Yeah,
Well, yeah. Who
the
is
three.
this person? What is it? Yeah.
What? So did you forget who the three singers are? They're pretty cool.
Oh, fucking the Hololive trio. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I want to like the opening itself. It gives the anime 3 extra points. But
Okay.
have you? There's trying to become a trend where every anime has to have like a what is it? What's the term? A memeable dance, really? Like every opening has to have a memeable dance.
Oh, so it
This,
gets like becomes viral and stuff like
yeah,
that. Yeah,
this dance
part of
sucks
it.
in this one. It's pretty bad. I don't know. It's pretty. I've seen it described as being for geriatric people because there's not much movement, and I'm like, yeah, I can see that.
Mhm.
Song's good though. And then the
Yeah,
ending
yeah,
is Kunapi by Kaori Maeda, who
yeah. Uh-huh.
is, which is weird because Kaori Maeda is a character in the series who
You
hasn't appeared
mean?
yet.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes that does happen. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Speaking of that, there's a lot of interesting choices for the main girls in this one. There's a Amamiya Sora's in this.
Hmm.
Hinaki Yano, there's Kaori Maeda, and then the illustrious Kana Hanazawa. That's cool. So like,
Okay.
okay, pretty cool. Yeah.
All right. I guess.
Overall,
Yeah. If you
overall,
want to wrap up.
uh, I'm going to rate it. Uh, I guess a 11 out of 10.
What?
That's the vernacular, right?
It originally got an 8 because you said 3 points, right? But so it's an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's boring, but it's not offensive yet, really.
okay.
I mean, I feel like the cute girl will be like, "Oh, I'm teasing the main character because I think, yeah, because I'm going to get him to fall in love with me, but oh no, I'm slowly falling in love with her and love with him instead." It's
Hmm.
fine, if not a bit boring, really. Like I already I'm already starting to get bored of the series because there's not much happening. But I read more of the manga, and then there's more interesting characters that show up later.
Oh yeah,
And
okay,
I'm
yeah.
like,
I mean, I think right now the main two are not. I mean, yeah, they do set up the premise, but they're not really the most interesting characters.
they're not.
Yeah.
But I mean, I mean, uh, what is it? Uh, Mona's trying her hardest. She's the most active in the series. Like, I'm gonna do all these cute poses and whatnot.
Mhm.
But I got bored of it really quick because it's pretty straight and flat. There's not much variance to it other than, oh, she's changing outfits and doing these poses. But
Yeah, yeah, to like try to attract, yeah.
story otherwise is pretty bland
Hmm.
so far. It's
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I'm hoping it gets better. That's why I'm giving it a tentative 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's not average yet. It's slightly above
Oh,
average,
okay.
but it's definitely not uh it's not super interesting yet either.
Mm.
So
Okay.
yeah, 8 out of 10 plus 3 points because best opening of the season. One of the best openings of the season. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very
So
much,
but I
Toast.
will say though,
Yeah.
probably read the manga. The art's
Yeah,
better
yeah,
in the
definitely.
manga.
Yeah, yeah. I was about to say because you did point out that the art was a little bit better, especially for the supporting cast and the other characters in the series. So, but yeah, thank you very much, Toast. That was Medaka Kuroiwa is impervious to my charms, also known as Kuroiwa Medaka ni watashi. Kuroiwa Medaka ni watashi no kawaii ga Tsuujinai, also known as MedaKawa for short. So this is a manga original turned into anime adaptation by Synergy SP. Please, I guess, obviously, watch it if
Here,
you're interested,
check out
but
the
check
dance.
out the manga. Yeah. Check out the manga as well.
The dance
What
is
is this?
about what is it? 46 seconds in. Check out
Oh,
that cool dance.
oh
It's
yeah,
so
that's like,
cool.
yeah, that's just like very not. That's like nondescript. Like I don't know what else to say. It's like very nothing. It's yeah, I can see where you got the idea where it's like they clearly want a viral dance, like a TikTok dance kind of for this, but it's just not very well done.
It ain't no da da don dance or licky ricky dance. I remember that's the one where they kick their knees, right, or kick their
Yeah,
shoes. It's
yeah,
definitely not one of those.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Toast, for covering this series. I know again, this was one of the series that was kind of on the I guess on the horizon in terms of like when we were looking through the preview. It was a little bit on social media as well. So thank you very much. And Near, what do you have for us?
Wowee, wowee, wowee.
Mhm.
Um, I watched Sorairo Utility. Um,
It's
also known as
the
what is it?
golfing series of this season.
Yeah,
Or
Sky
although
Blue
are there two golfing
Utility.
series? Yeah, yeah,
Um,
Sky Blue Utility. Are there two golfing series or is this the only
I
one?
think
I'm
there's like a season 2 from last season that's carrying
Yeah, because I'm
over.
having PTSD from like previous seasons where there were like randomly two or three golfing series in one season. I'm just like, okay,
Yeah,
what's happening?
yeah. But yeah, this is a golfing series. This is a Yostar Pictures original anime. Um, so kind of interesting. Um, the basic premise is the main character, Minami.
Mhm.
Um, her favorite gacha game shuts down. It gets EOS'd. And then she's like, "Man, what the hell do I do now? What do I do now?" And so her best friend is like, "You should join a club because your high school days are only so long or whatever." And she's like, "Yeah, I guess I should do that." So she tries out a bunch of clubs, tries out a bunch of sports, and she's bad at all of them. It's not good. Um, and she kind of just gives up immediately. Um, and then when she's walking home from school, she helps out this old man who seems to be having some trouble carrying his bags. Um, and she ends up sort of helping him carry his stuff to a golfing range, sort of a I don't know what is like the specific name for them, where it's just like the tee that you shoot into like the netted area.
Driving
Um,
range.
yeah,
Like
driving
Yeah,
range.
yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those, and she meets this girl named Haruka, who's uh a little bit older than her. But she sort of gets uh inspired to, give a shot at golfing, right? And she ends up, having quite a bit of fun. Um,
Mhm,
and it sort of goes from there. Um,
mhm.
she makes friends. She does golf.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She slowly gets better at it. Yada yada yada. Right? Pretty
Yeah.
standard.
And it's
Standard
not
sports
like
stuff.
there's a
Girls
lot of
doing
more just
stuff.
like doing it at the practice range, at the driving range, and kind of just doing 9 hole, 18 hole kind of stuff. And it's less like it's not like some of those other series where it's like we have a competition academy for horse riding or
Yeah.
whatever it is,
At
right? It's
least,
it's
at
just
least
a
not
little
yet.
bit.
I'm sure there
Yeah,
might
yeah,
be a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sort of like my first competition kind of thing, but it's
Yeah,
less.
because
It's
usually, like,
less.
golfing clubs tend to have a or not in, like, high school clubs, but it's like, you know how there are golfing club, like, houses, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That have, like, that are next to, like, actual golfing courses.
Yeah.
Golfing courses usually have a golfing club, and they tend to have, like, tourneys every once in a while. But,
Yeah.
yeah,
Of course.
they'll probably do something like that.
Yeah, but for now, it's a lot more casual. It's a very sort of her like Minami sort of uh finding something to sort of, I guess, you know uh dedicate herself to, right? Sort of finding her way in the world with, golfing being sort of a backdrop as, uh a I guess an activity that she can do to sort of measure her own growth as a person, right? Something that she wants to dedicate her time to, that she can actively see, progress and improvement in. Um, and it's pretty casual.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah,
That so
it's
how
it's
much so I think there's a decent amount of I mean, there's, like, a nice trivia. I think some of the whole, like you know how for instance, like, I don't know whether you watch, like, the Fat Elf series, right? But,
yeah,
you know how in some of these, like, trivia series with, like, physical therapy or, like, sports, they sometimes Japanese anime have weird trivia that, like, doesn't really make sense sometimes. Like, there's some of that a little bit, but for the most part, it's like it's a nice little series with, like, bits and pieces of, trivia put in.
yeah.
Some of,
There's
like, the
not
practice regimens are a little bit weird, but yeah.
Yeah, there's not too much trivia in this one. It's
Yeah.
kind of just like, this is kind of like what certain clubs are for. This is kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they do some gags about, the price of a set of golf clubs, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's why you
Um,
always get, like, the o do they I only skimmed through the series, but do they ever talk about just, like because like, the standard answer to that is that's why you
that's
always
why you
get
always get used.
old model. Yeah, used
Yeah. So
for, like,
so they
25 bucks.
they the bit they do is Haruka gives Minami her old golf set, right? Like her old
Uh-huh.
set of clubs, from, I guess, back when she was, because they've alluded to that, like Haruka used to be, um, basically like pro, like she was pro, and then I
Yeah,
guess
yeah, yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
happened and she sort of, stepped to the side.
She's
Um,
Obi-Wan, essentially.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Haruka gives Minami her old set, and Minami's all happy. She's like, "Yay, I got my own set," kind of thing. Um, and her friend is like, "Do you know how much those things fucking cost?" Um, and they look it up, and it's like the full set that like she has. Like if she were to buy it brand new, it's like it was like 2 million yen or something.
So,
Um,
okay.
and so
Yeah,
Minami
that's
is like,
around like 15, $20,000
yeah.
in USD. Yeah.
So Minami's like, holy shit, like, am I really like allowed to accept this? And Haruka's like, don't worry, they're used, so like they're basically like worth a fucking fraction of that. Um,
Mhm.
so they do sort of comment on the whole like, yeah, buying used. I think the most recent episode was her. She sort of they were like going through a sort of golfing like sports goods store, and she eyes this one club. um I guess it's a utility club, right? And it's like the one club that she has missing in her set, right? And
Mhm.
she's kind of smitten with this club, like it looks really cool, and she wants it. And the manager's like, yeah, I'll give it to you for 20% off, and it's 30,000 yen. And she's like, I don't know about that one, man.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so the manager's like, well, you could sleep on it, right? And come back later. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And she comes back later, and the club is now like, it's like, um, it's like 37,000 after she comes back, and
Yeah,
she's
yeah, yeah.
like, what the fuck happened? And the manager's like, oh well, the sale rotated, haha. And she's like, what the fuck? And then the whole bit of the episode is like, well, I'll give you the sale if you can beat me in
Ah,
um
okay.
like a golf off thing. And they do the whole like, the digital things where you put it into like the projected screen, and it
Mhm.
gives you like the measurement or whatever. They do a sort of competition with that, and it's a whole gag. Um,
Right, right,
but
right.
yeah, it's not too focused on the trivia. It's more about the
The girls.
comedy, the sort of,
Yeah.
yeah, the girls being friends with each other. A little bit of character introspection here and there. Um, but yeah, it's mostly about just kind of talking about how like a lot of the early episodes are basically just like, yeah, golf is like really chill, and like you don't really need to worry about like whether you're good at it or bad at it, or you know
Yeah.
whether you're making like whether you're doing a certain amount of holes within a certain amount of shots. It's mostly just about kind of lazing about for a day, your holes, and
Yeah.
having lunch with your friends. It's a very like chill sport is kind of how
Yeah.
they depict it, which is cool. I like that they're not like doing the whole like I have to be the best golfer in the
I
world.
yeah, I have to be the golfing
I have
master.
to spin this ball at such a specific angle, and the wind is at uh you know fucking
Chris
12
Tennis.
kilometers per hour
Yeah.
at 8 degrees longitude and latitude. And it's like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
it's not like that. It's like the earliest episodes are literally um like Minami and Haruka going doing a 9 round thing with like a couple old dudes and being like, yeah,
Right.
man, like we're fucking old, this is like all we
Yeah,
do. And
yeah.
it's fucking awesome. But yeah, it is a fun series. The comedy is pretty good. The pacing is pretty good. I think it does a really good job at balancing a sort of very chill, sort of laid back vibe with a pretty snappy, comedic pace. The jokes are pretty good. The visual gags are pretty good. Um, it's pretty, it's pretty good, especially because this is an original series, right? Like this has like no sort of source material or manga gags for them to pull from. Um,
Mm.
so that's something to appreciate, that like all of these gags and like the visual gags and references and stuff. Um, somebody actually storyboarded these and thought of these instead of just being like, hey, what did the manga do, right?
Right.
So it's cool. Um, audio visuals. Again, this is Yostar Pictures, who recently they did what was it, like the Goku Loser Ranger series.
Yeah. And then
They
before that
recently
they did
did
girls? No, they did
they
they
did
do
the
girls?
Arknights
Yeah.
one.
Arknights,
and
yeah.
the Blue
Sorry.
Archive anime as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think that this is kind of their, I guess, push for more original
Yeah,
stuff,
because they've
more
been expanding recently, I
yeah, to
think,
be more of
right?
a an anime studio instead of just like yeah, they're the guys that do the gotcha game adaptations, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, pretty cool. Um, but yeah, the audio visuals are they're pretty standard.
Yeah.
The animation is pretty good. The
Yeah, the
actual
animation is quite good. It's just like I think what I sort of felt was almost um not it was almost like a limitation of animation, like 2D animation right now to be able to or like y- yeah, to be able to properly animate a really good looking golf swing because I think it's very, 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 very hard to do that
yeah, well,
in 2D
so
animation because you have to
a
show kind of the 3D kind of angle as well, like of that swing.
yeah, I think like 2D animating a full golf swing
Smooth
is
golf swing, yeah.
a very it's almost a practice in like just pure anatomy, right? Because
Yeah, and like
there
perspectives because it's like if you
yeah,
don't because you could see also like in the golf swings in like some of the initial golf swings when even when they did it like quite well, it kind of ended up looking like they're just rotating like right above their head, but that's not really what they're doing. They're kind of like angling it back and then bam, just like
yeah.
going for that. And it's hard to uh, animate that and the hips and everything else.
Yeah, there are a couple, I think, like really snappy ones that are like
Mm,
sort of halfway through the swing that are really well animated. I think in like episode
yeah.
2, there's some pretty good ones. But yeah, for the most part, they do cheat a little bit, especially with the putts and stuff by kind of just doing a top down like angle of the ball being hit by like a CG club. Um, but it doesn't look terrible. And it's not like they're the actual like characters themselves are all 2D, which is um, nowadays I guess something to applaud. Um, but yeah, it looks pretty good. The colors are nice. The palette is very colorful. It's pretty cheerful. Um, the soundtrack is pretty standard. It's not nothing too remarkable. It's chill enough when it needs to be, and it's
Mm.
poppy when it needs to be. The OP I like quite a bit. Um, it's Shujinko ni Naro by Masayoshi Oishi, featuring
Ah, nice.
Airi Suzuki. It's a really nice OP.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
think the visuals are pretty cute. They're very colorful, very snappy. Um,
Mm,
and the song is very catchy in my opinion.
mm.
The ED is a bit more boring. It's Su Heisen by Moika Yahagi. The pretty standard sort of like montage ED. It's like the anime characters sort of over um they're kind of like overlaid onto like live action pictures of like the beach and stuff. So it's like, them, hanging out at the beach. It's cute, but it's pretty standard.
Mhm.
Not really animated, right? It's just kind of a montage of pictures.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But otherwise pretty standard. I do like the OP quite a bit though. Quite cute.
Yeah, I'm glad that they
Um
bring because they you said Suzuki Airi, right? Because Suzuki Airi and Oishi Masayoshi
yeah.
Oishi actually run a very famous quite famous uh mainstream television show called like Anisong Desho or something like that, where they bring in stuff like voice actresses and Anisong singers and stuff like that,
Right.
and they sing, their own songs and they interview and stuff like that. So that's like a very famous MC duo that obviously both of them have very good singing chops by themselves, and now have collabed together on this opening. So that's quite nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite nice. Um but yeah, that's pretty much it for the audio visuals. I think they're pretty good. Um, you know, the uh voice acting is a bit of an interesting situation because the main character, um, Minami, is voiced by Miyu Takagi, and I think she's not necessarily new, but she doesn't have that many roles.
Uh huh.
Um, she's done some stuff back in like 2014. with Wake Up Girls, and then uh, that's kind of like she's basically just like Wake Up Girls, like
And
locked
D4DJ.
in, I guess,
Yeah.
for the rest of it. And then she did some stuff in Healer Girl. She did some stuff in D4DJ, Isekai Smartphone, and then I guess Station Buta, and then now she's a main role in this. It's kind of a
Yeah, she
weird,
got a proper main role, yeah.
yeah, kind of a weird car- career trajectory, I guess. I will say,
It does happen with some people because it's like because there's so much like there's so many freaking voice actresses and voice actors in Japan. It's such like a bustling industry that sometimes you just get, you lose your brand or you don't get into the auditions you need. And for like years at a time they just go underwater for a bit,
yeah,
doing
yeah.
random stuff and then they come back up. Yeah.
Um, Haruka's voice actor, Yurina Amami, has a similar sort of situation where she's
Uh-huh.
not necessarily a newcomer. This seems to be one of her more recent main roles, with the other, I guess, last one being like some supporting stuff in what is this? Um, Kabushiki Shikaisha. Um, yeah, a lot of supporting roles in the past few years. So this seems to be her first like big main role, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I will say the audio, like, um, it's kind of weird. Like the audio mixing and recording quality of the voices feels a little bit more budget than you would, I guess,
Okay.
typically hear from most anime productions these days. Although I feel like that was mostly only in episode one. I feel like in episode two, it got a little bit better. So
Cleared
I
up.
don't know.
Yep.
I don't know if just like the file I got was odd or whatever. Maybe they just had some issues mixing that one. But yeah, this series is overall it's pretty nice. I think it's a fun watch. It's a pretty laid back series, right? Um, there's not really much to dislike about it, although, depending on what you're looking for when you're going into it, um, you know, you might want something different. It is more girls in a club kind of doing things, although obviously they're not really in a club, they're kind of just in a friends group in this one. So it's a bit more just kind of like girls hanging out and also doing golf instead of like
Yeah, it's
a
less like one of those sporty like what was it? Like not recent, but 1 or 2 seasons ago where they had to do I think Toast covered this, like the cycling anime or where they had that competition or like they're not like doing high speed racing or whatever. It's more akin to like Let's Make a Mug or Judo Camp or something like that.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
Oh.
So if that's something you're looking for, I would definitely recommend this. If you're looking for like a sports series, uh,
Mhm.
this is probably not it. Um, there have been there have been a lot of golf series coming out, for some strange reason. So I'm sure if you're really into
Yeah,
like the competitive aspect of golf, there's probably a series already out.
probably like
Um,
Tumble or something. Yeah.
yeah, but this one's not really it. And personally, I appreciate that because I find golf really boring. So
Yeah,
the
so I
fact
was about
that,
to say like it's golfing as like a theme for anime to pick up and for manga to pick up on is sort of like it's a natural evolution of because golfing has been hitting its stride for at least a few years now, both in Korea and Japan, stuff like that. I think in China as well, but it's been on mainstream TV like all the time, alongside fishing, but fishing kind of is like a little bit more on the wane these days. But golfing has been pretty popular on mainstream right now, and I think a lot of because the people in these production committees are the same people, the same old men who are doing these TV station stuff and watching these shows, right? So I think
yeah,
a lot of them are taking an advantage of that mainstream golfing popularity to push more golfing anime, and it's also kind of matching up with the aging. I would want to say probably slightly aging demographic of the manga anime audience these days, right? Because the audience, right, that have watched manga read manga, watched anime for years, are now getting into their late 20s and 30s and stuff like that, right? So it kind of fits. But somebody actually mentioned on social media, like, this really flew under the radar. It's like, I wonder why. It's pretty solid. And my guess for that is that golfing, as Nier kind of just said, um, golfing is a very hard series to make it look attractive and exciting to an audience that knows nothing or very little about golfing. I think like one might be like, excuse me, like mahjong, I don't get any of the rules in that. Like, and people are just, putting down styles with them. Like, well, why is that any different from why does that have appeal as opposed to golf? It's because mahjong is a little bit more focused. Like, you can always kind of spin it back into the mind games, bro. The 1v1, like head to head, and like, is
Yeah.
he just bluffing or blah blah? And you can always kind of generally spool it out in like a more abstract sense, like about how you're playing the mind games. I can't put the, you know, um, and like, am I just going for small like runs, or like what's happening here? Um, or am I kind of trying to go for a bus bike, trying to complete this Yakuman? But it's like you can kind of do that, and since it's like a 1v1, it makes for a naturally more tense kind of series. And then you add on stuff like Saki did Mahjong Ball Z, right? And then Akagi always has those like dramatic scenes and stuff like that, and that kind of worked out. But with golf, it's a little bit different because even there's no other than, like, putting, other than, like, doing the putt into, like, the hole in, like, the last, like, 1 or 2 strokes, right, of a hole, there's no real tense moments, quote, unquote, in golf.
Yeah,
It's and,
nothing's really like
yeah.
actively happening in golfing other than being
Yeah.
like I'm hitting the ball or I'm not. You
Yeah.
know what I
Again, like
mean?
the putting, like if you're doing like, I need to make this one long one put, um, like that's like 10, 15, 20 meters away to, get this up in properly, right? And get the birdie or get the par to win the round, right? And that's like one thing. But like golfing isn't just those like puts, and most of golfing is like setting up for like a bunch of other stuff, and all the other stuff is relatively peaceful and relaxing, and to the people who don't know golf, boring. So it's like, and even to the people who know golf, it's like refreshing to see it, but it's not like, whoa, oh my god, like this is the most freaking exciting thing I've ever watched. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's like fishing, right? So it's very hard to sell it to people, especially an audience where if you're like the lineup of anime, right? It's not like a lineup of TV, right? Where with TV you have golfing next to a fishing show, next to a cooking show, next to, some discussion on like politics or whatever, right? And they're all very kind of like samey in terms of tension. It's like in anime, for when you're appealing to an anime demographic, or even if you're just appealing to a general Netflix watching demographic or something like that, right? Or Hulu watching demographic, you're putting golfing next to like Squid Game, next to Isekai Mao, next to, like Don Da Don or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's so hard to like, you can have a good golfing anime, but it's hard to compete eh, with viewers that want something more like a Don Da Don or like a Trigun or something like that, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to sell,
I do
I think.
think yeah, I do think it was a much smarter decision to focus more on, the girls, being friends, doing, girl stuff,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
while also, having their sort of shared interest of golf being sort of a backdrop, a sort of general backbone for this series to just be like, hey, yeah, we play golf and golf is cool and we like golf. But also we're girls and we're friends and we hang out and we do
Yeah.
stuff together and that's kind of just the show, right? Um,
Mhm.
and I feel like um if that's something you're into, if you like those series, like we brought it up earlier, like the Yoda camps or the Make a Mugs or whatever. this is definitely up your alley. But if you're really into golf, you really fucking love golf, um, you might not get that much mileage out of it. Although I will
Yeah,
say,
this is much
I
more
did I
casual
did
for sure.
really like the old dude, the old men in this series. They were really fucking funny. Um, but yeah, um,
Yeah.
I like it.
Mm,
I'm a fan. Um, Overall, I think I'd probably give this like a 7. I think it's
mm.
pretty good. It's sitting at it's sitting at 6.79 on Mall. Um, which I think is a bit unfair, but Mall is Mall.
Yeah.
I guess this series just isn't zoomy enough for some of them, so
They should be like so love. Like she should just get a sword and like kill the other girls with
true. She should just get the ultimate golf club and hit all of
yeah.
the holes in one.
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah. Um I guess if that's it, then again, thank you very much, Nier, for your coverage of Sorairo Utility. I guess like if you hadn't done it, I would have because I don't mind golf and I've play golf and I like watching golf and stuff like that. But for me, for some reason, just a lot of golfing series didn't really stick with me in terms of the anime, like how they were structured. But I'll probably check this one out a little bit more because I do like kind of like the tone that it sets. So thank you
Also,
very
a
much.
fun little
Yeah.
thing is apparently, um, I don't know if other golfing series have done this, but
Mm.
apparently, companies like Yamaha are going really hard in selling like themed, uh, like golf clubs and golf balls,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
specifically like in collaboration with this anime. It's kind of
Mm.
funny. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Because because it's how do I say this? It's the golfing market is very closed in by like a couple of brands, right? And it's like usually these are like Western brands, but like it's kind of hard to break in. So I think a lot of Japanese brands are also excited to kind of be able to sell their brands because usually if it's when people think of like for instance golf balls, right? It'll be like Titleist is probably the most famous one. Callaway, I would say probably second famous, and then Bridgestone, you have TaylorMade, stuff like that. But it's like you have a couple of these brands that everybody realizes, everybody looks to, and they don't buy like anything else. Because why would they? Like if these are the brands. Like it's like this is Nike for his shoes, like for instance, right? They're like this is
yeah.
Nike. This is a new brand or whatever it is. This is Hoka. Like just go to these brands. So it's very hard to break into that market. So I think a lot of Japanese brands are using this as like a little bit more of a boost to their market share, at least in Japan. So yeah. Anyways, thank you very much, Nier. Again, this was Sorairo Utility. I believe this is an anime original, right? Uh,
Yep.
so this is an anime original done by Yostar Pictures. Yostar Pictures kind of taking on more like anime original and like anime adaptation works on their way to kind of branch out, similar to how like Side Games Pictures are doing it, but a little bit more obviously on the Chinese side as well. So if you like a little bit more relaxed series, cute girls in a cute club doing stuff, but with golf, and not like oh this is the competition or whatever, please do check this out. All right, I'll be rounding up here by doing one of the big ones that we need to knock out, and yeah, one of the big ones that we probably need to knock out for this season. It is none other than Grisaia Phantom Trigger. God, uh, I this is one of the infamous series of not fan discs, but much lighter kind of like short VNs, right? Kinet I forget if it's, like, actually kinetic because I haven't played them, but it's like, um, what? They chopped it up into much shorter routes, which is what a lot of, visual novel studios are doing these days, as opposed to having, like, the longer, bigger kind of multi-route, visual novels that most people know and love, right? So this is a spin-off. Grisaia Phantom Trigger is a spin-off of the original Grisaia trilogy. which is sort of the fruit of Grisaia, the labyrinth of Grisaia, and um, what is it? The Eden of Grisaia. So those three, Grisaia no Kajitsu, Grisaia no Meikyu, Grisaia
So
no
how does that fit
Rakuren.
into it? If that's the all this Eden stuff, what is the Phantom Trigger in God mythology?
I have no idea. I think they just did it because the girls have guns and they just want to sound cool. It's like Girls Frontline. They're like, "Wow, guns, trigger!" like they're in the
Is
bag. It's like a
Badass,
phantom.
dude.
Yeah,
is the
I think
Phantom
that
Trigger supposed to be what? When Adam eats the forbidden fruit or something, he
she
starts
got
a Phantom Trigger. I
the
don't know.
trigger for
Where is he
everything.
going?
Yeah, I wish honestly that would probably be a better explanation for than what they actually have. But yeah, so this is a spin-off or like timeline wise or universe wise supposed to be a sequel with different characters after the original Grisaia trilogy. Set in the same kind of school academy, but it's turned into a full kind of like girls and guns, learning how to shoot stuff and like do like dangerous missions, similar to again something like Blue Archive or like a girls frontline, whatever stuff like that, right? The girls have guns, they do dangerous mission stuff in the academy, and in this case, with Phantom Trigger, there are also other academies elsewhere in the world, so it's a little bit more of like they also had something like a kind of like a girls in Panzer situation, right? Um, so that's that. It's done by Front Wing and their Grisaia team. Just a note, before I go into this more fully, I have not played Phantom Trigger, the visual novels. I have only played the original trilogy. So this me speaking from that perspective. So going on real quick with the staff, this is done by Biburi Animation Studio. They did like a lot of key animation and like supporting of like other anime series. They were the head animation production studio for, I believe, the 100 Girlfriends Who Really Really Love You or whatever, Hyakkano, right, season 2, as well as that one isekai that was like chilling in my 30s after I beat the Demon Lord or whatever it was, Anko Keishi, that isekai. So they headed those two as well. And this studio is actually a switch up from the original Grisaia trilogy proper. The original Grisaia trilogy and its animation adaptations were all headed by 8-Bit Studio instead of Biburi Animation. So this is a slight change up. In terms of how the staff is kind of composed, they have a new director. Again, switch up from the Grisaia trilogy. They have a new director in Murayama Kosuke, who was actually the director of the original infamous Tawa on Mondays, Getsuyobi no Tawa ONAs or OVAs with Pine Jam. He's generally he's like a very, very experienced veteran animation director as well as key animation artist, and it kind of shows up in this series. But yeah, Biburi Animation kind of helped support his um, this directorial adventure by staffing staffing the lineup with a combination of parts of the original Grisaia trilogy adaptation team, right? So you'll see uh, Watanabe Akio, who is the infamous, the chef guy, the front wing Grisaia guy, and he worked as animation director, the character designer for the original Grisaia trilogy, and now he's back at it again here. Um, there you'll see what is it? Matsumoto Fuminori heading the music, who worked on BGM in the previous adaptations, and also I guess which this is probably pretty important for continuation purposes. You have Tensho working with the series composition, and Tensho was actually the lead director in the original Grisaia trilogy adaptations. So these sorts of like bits and pieces, parts of the original Grisaia trilogy adaptation team were buffeted, supported, added onto by sort of the Biburi Studio connections from Biburi Studio's work on Hyakkano. So you'll find again people like Aoshima Takashi. You'll have people like Hanehiro Fume, heading who was like the assistant art director for Hyakkano. uh, Most of these names are like generally very experienced, very veteran teams. So this is a pretty solid team going in. There are not a lot of I think newbies here in this group, so which is a rarity a relative rarity in these days, unless you have a series that just has a lot of money going in. So, pretty interesting staff. The Seiyu, the voice actress slash actor lineup, is also pretty, uh, loaded. It's a relatively decent who's who of like recent A tier actresses and other supporting cast Seiyu. You have Kanezaki Atsumi, you have Sakura Ayane, Nasuka Kaori, Uchita Maya, Mimori Suzuko, Yonaga Tsubasa, Nagatsuma Juri, and Nanjo Yoshino. And Nanjo Yoshino has been doing a lot of like these like different roles recently. I don't know whether she's just like paddling while the tide is in, right? As the Korean proverb goes, kind of making use of this chance while she has this like a larger brand recognition from her recent wheelings and dealings with Flipside and so on. Um, or whatever's happening. But she's been getting a decent amount of roles recently, which is nice. But yeah, a pretty um decently loaded role of like A tier actresses, I would say. Moving on to the opening and ending, as well as audio visuals. The opening theme is Zero Ignition and is sung by Uesagi Mao. So Uesagi Mao is one of the current Fripside vocal duo members. So if you guys don't know, um, Fripside in its latest iteration, I think starting from the what was it, Dawn of Infinity, which was uh their song for, I forget which adaptation it was, but it was like yeah. So yeah, it was Dawn of the Witch, right? Oh, Majo no Reimeki or something like that. But it's starting from that single, Dawn of Infinity. I believe they had a duo that was um composed of Uesagi Mao and Abe Hisayo. So these two would literally be duo vocals consistently for the main band that is Flipside. While obviously the composer and like the synth and the band man behind it, the core band man who's been there all the time, would be Yaginube Satoshi, right? Um, so that's one of the vocal duo, Mao, sings the opening for this, and eh, the song itself is fine. I don't think it's super standout necessarily. The vocals are fine. The visuals themselves are clearly a little bit budget in terms of visuals for an opening in the year 2024. You could kind of see this panning out in slightly clunky animations when there are like kind of actual 2D animations. For instance, especially in that one scene where they had to like rotate around they had to imitate a camera rotation around like one of the characters, right? Um, v- into kind of like this time leap, time skip kind of scene, and that was when I saw that animation, I was like, "Oh, this is really clunky. This is awkward. I don't know." So there are some clunky parts to the opening, and the parts that aren't clunky, most are just like slowly panning background visuals and moving 3D models like cars and stuff like that. So it was quite budget, even if it was the year 2011, 2012, I'd be like, this is okay, I guess. But in the year 2024, it's definitely a little bit budget. The ending is Dandelion by Yoshino Nanjo Yoshino, who is one of the most famous former Fripside vocals, and she also voices a character named Maki in the cast of the series. But it's the song itself is a very standard, slow, and it's nondescript and it's song ED sung by Nanjo Yoshino, which I personally, this is completely personal opinion, I think it's a slight waste of vocals, right? Like you bring Naja Yoshino here. Yes, she does voice a character in the series. You bring Naja Yoshino here to sing just like a completely nondescript and song ballad. Come on, like can you get her to sing something decent? Come on, guys. Um, so a little bit of waste of vocals in my opinion. And the visuals itself, the storyboarding, it's literally all just minimal looping animation, like, wave hair waving in the wind and stuff like that, as well as completely static panning backgrounds and stuff like that. So I think the OPED was not up to standards for what we might expect from an OPED again in the year 2024. But I guess we can't have everything, right? The animations in the actual anime episodes are done pretty well overall, and assuming that they don't have, $100 billion in the tank, which is what I'm assuming with this sort of like lineup, Peabody Studio, Animation Studio, and stuff like that. Um, the static kind of talking scenes, which there are a lot of, are fine. And when the animation kind of needs to ramp up with stuff like running or breaking stuff or fighting, it looks relatively smooth compared to it doesn't look like super out of place or like super awkward or like, the running like in betweens are like kind of like doing it in weird static spastic spurts. It's all kind of very relatively well done, especially considering the budget. And I'm assuming, again, that's the experience of Murayama Kosuke, the director coming in. It's the experience of obviously Watanabe Akio and the others kind of helping design um, uh, and coming in because I believe Watanabe Akio is both doing both the character design and he's heading uh, as the chief animation director for this series. So their experience really shines, I think, in this, where the visuals are balanced quite well for what it is. The BGM is decent. Probably there are parts of it that are copied over from the VN original, and which is fine. Generally, it fits well with the scenes and overall provides slow-paced school life atmosphere that the story usually demands at times. Like those like standard kind of key studio kind of like sphere whatever those early late 2000s leading up to all the way up until like 2020 2014, right? That's sort of like whenever you have a school life visual novel, you have that classic uh, uh soundtrack, right? um I think that sort of really fits in well with this series, and it kind of provides a change in tone. um or it elevates the tone of those school scenes. So I'll probably give it plus points for that. So that was the audio visuals overall. Going on with the story. Um, Again, the story is kind of you have these girls. They are, just trying to be regular girls, but while also being, dangerous mission takers and like not mercenaries, like I guess mercenaries, like contractors, right? Military contractors in a sense. Uh, just living in a dangerous world where, full of dark choices by the government and like terrorists and dark people and blah 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 blah. And um essentially it's Grisaia light. Um it's Grisaia trilogy light because the core value, the core objective of the series is similar to the original Grisaia trilogy, where although in the original Grisaia trilogy, the girls weren't like all mercenaries and running out and training themselves with guns or anything like that. Um, the point of the Grisaia trilogy was that you had each of the girls with their backgrounds and you would develop them and much like a standard visual novel, right? And so their drama and their pain and their redemption, with the help of the main character, of course, were all kind of centered around the academy and why their parents sent them to that academy and the problems lying, you know, underneath the academy and its origins and how it's connected to the military and the government and stuff like that, right? So it's that, but now you have a bunch more characters and the girls now hold guns, right? So in terms of that sort of premise being said, the way the story is generally balanced out screen time wise is that 80% of the series is them just kind of trying to develop the various cast members by developing the various cast members. I mean, mainly the one or two characters that are in focus for each like mini arc. So it's like you'll have, one or two or three episodes where one or two characters are in focus, like these are the characters that everybody's trying to save. These are the characters that everybody's kind of talking about. These are the characters that have sort of like the retrospections or the introspections back to when they were young, and they have the flashbacks like, oh, I came to this like I have trauma because of blah 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 blah. But I'll I'll look all forward. I'll do my best. I won't ever give up. The whole 9 yards shebang cheese, right? Um, so it's a lot of its mini arcs focus on those like one or two girls. And there's a lot of talking between the girls and eating bentos and talking in the classrooms and talking outside and talking in the principal's office and talking talking in the playground and talking in it's a lot of that sort of talking to do character development while relaxing in the school. And then there are like 20-30% of it is some of the action whenever they get a mission or like a crisis happens, like one of the girls gets in trouble, they're held hostage, or the terrorists are attacking, or they need to carry out this mission, or whatever it is. Then the action happens, and there are some slight fight scenes. They're not like anything impressive, or like action scenes. They're not anything super impressive, but those do happen, and it's usually um not that impressive. Like, or not. I'm not talking about the animation. I'm talking about the story. Like the story when the action and like the drama happens are not that impressive. And this has always been like a decent gripe that I've had about the entire Grisaia trilogy, not just Phantom Trigger, but like the how the Grisaia team writes about like the drama in general, because I feel like they're not good at writing out these big um overarching, like the government is getting involved, the military is getting involved, and the kids just have to brave it out and fight against the evil guys in the government and the military. And they have to use all their wits and blah 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 blah. And they're not good at writing that sort of premise, as well as centering the character's drama over it. Some of the routes, I'm not going to spoil anything, but some of the routes that I dislike the most in terms of the original Grisaia trilogy, and part of why I didn't really also like how Grisaia ended, um, was because the writers were not very good at creating that sort of big world building, overarching kind of lore. And it kind of just ended up being like a jumbled mess where they're like, oh, there are evil mercenaries, and the government is limiting us. So, but we're gonna ignore the government. Fuck you. We're gonna go out with guns to save everybody. And it's a very green eggs and ham basic. It kind of starts out as like a very serious like, the government is restricting me. The government is restricting you. The government has been restricting my father, who's a government bureaucrat or big wig, has been restricting me for years on end. Blah blah. Blah. And then it kind of just ends up resolving at the end into a very basic like, no, I gotta be free. I'm gonna ignore what the principal of the government says, and I'm gonna save all my friends. Which is again a little bit, a little bit too much, too basic, very predictable for my liking. Um, and I think the same sort of thing pans out in Grisaia Phantom Trigger, and you can see that in the first episodes where it's a very kind of the setup is a very basic series of or retrospections where they're just uh like why was I born, why did my life turn out this way, why do I have to um why did everybody just like that I cherish just die like that around me? And you have the other girl that's just like, my family has been doing this. My family has been keeping me caged in like this all my life, and blah blah blah. And then the rest of it, it's a very predictable, very simple development, story development towards them being like, no, I want to be free. I want to save my friends. It's like I won't be chained by the people trying to hold me back in my um the big wigs, or the people in the shadows who are trying to hold me back. My family's trying to hold me back, and I won't be chained by that anymore. And that sort of very um standard variant. of these sorts of like girls that have trauma and are in this weird context situation set up. So I wasn't very impressed by these sorts of stories. I wasn't impressed by within the original Grisaia trilogy. The parts of the Grisaia trilogy that I liked were not the parts where they had to fight the military and the government, but really when they did a little bit more organic introspection and retrospection on the traumas that they experienced and how that uniquely affected the characters and why that's why their mental state is where it's at now, and how they slowly like recover from that mental state without necessarily being involved in these huge like, yeah, let's go and rescue my friends from terrorists, like having more quiet, more realistic ways of doing mental therapy with, within the character, with the character's friends, with the protagonist or the male supporting character in this case, with the others, is I think a more organic and more um, believable, more unique, more novel, more valuable way to run this story rather than just being like, yeah, I had this trauma. And then later on, there's another drama that's very similar to this other trauma that comes in. And this time, I'm going to stand up for what's right. And it's a very like, okay, so like you're just going to do this? You're just going to do this for every girl? Is this how it goes? And it's not very exciting, in my opinion, because I've seen this movie 1,000 times. And to me, the important part, again, is not how the girl looks at the drama, the hostage situation, the terror situation, and decides to go, no, I will stand up to what's right. That's not the important part. The important part is the mental evolution the slow mental evolution uh, as time progresses, right? So it's a little bit unfortunate that Phantom Trigger went this way. And on top of that, because it is like kind of a diluted uh Grisaia trilogy spin-off, right? It's just the same sort of structure, but like there are twice as many girls, right? It just didn't really impress me in any ways. I feel like it just continued on it just extended upon all like of the boring stuff that Grisaia should have stopped doing. But then they were just like, oh, this is like the main brunt of it, right? We should just keep doing this. And I feel like that was a huge mistake on Phantom Trigger's part. And I don't know, it's just super boring. There's not even like proper uh like the main character or like I'm not saying that Grisaia needs to be kind of this harem rom-com kind of thing, but at least when the Grisaia trilogy had its harem, its main character, and like the back and forth, there was kind of like a reprieve. There was a little bit of a more um accented back and forth dialogue kind of business going on, right? And there was like another avenue for writers to write in stuff like jealousy or like the girls just popping up on the male character or doing these like comedic back and forths a little bit better. But I think Grisaia Phantom Trigger has lost a lot of that edge. And I think part of it's the fact that they discard the idea of the harem main male character and just kind of do this like girls with guns just all running around like again like an assault lily or a momentary lily or girls frontline or whatever. Part of it's that, and I just think that the other part is just I don't know. They're writing the comedic writing, the slice of life writing, the school life writing in this series just is not as good as it was in the original Grisaia. Which is again very unfortunate because that's a huge part of the screen time, right? As I mentioned before, 80% of this story is them trying to develop the characters through, talking and kind of doing introspections and retrospections while they're relaxing in the school. So it is unfortunate that that writing has gone down in quality compared to the original trilogy. But um, but yeah, I think overall it's a very middling series at best. And if I wanted to be harsh, it was just like this represents like the most useless parts of the Grisaia trilogy, story wise, structure wise, literature wise. I would say overall, the animation, the audio visuals were decent, and I was surprised at the level. I was honestly surprised at how okay it held up. The audio visuals held up, compared to probably the budget that they had. But I was extremely disappointed. It was extremely kind of like the talking isn't really going anywhere. The When the talking does develop around these two characters, it's a very standard, predictable way that they develop around like an incoming crisis. Um, and even that structure wasn't really the part that I wanted for Sai anyways. So it's like the story was just very, very not what I wanted. Um, and it was very just mediocre, objectively, overall. I would probably give this a 4 out of 10. I'll probably give this a 4 out of 10. I don't think it's like just specifically horrible, but there's a lot of the question that's like constantly running into through my mind is like, why am I watching this anime? Like, what are these characters doing? All they're doing is like talking themselves into a situation, into a story structure that I've seen a million times in other anime before. Like, why am I wasting time watching this series? Um, Especially when, I was not a fan of how some of the parts in the original Grisaia developed. And the original Grisaia, despite those flaws, was still 100 times better than Grisaia Phantom Trigger. So it's very confusing to me as to where um the series expects to find its like attraction. Um my personal opinion is that most of the popularity of Grisaia Phantom Trigger honestly is not doesn't necessarily come from the original story itself, but it comes from the it riding the coattails of the original Grisaia trilogy that was released on Steam, and it's one of the series that was a little bit earlier on the timeline with regards to visual novels being released on Steam and so on, and that's where they kind of got their popularity from. Because for those of you who don't know, a lot of a visual novel series, just because of a lack of supply, a lot of visual novels that got released earlier on in Steam before like the huge kind of current visual novel industry that we see today, um, localization industry that we see today. A lot of visual novels that got localized a little bit earlier on ended up becoming popular just because the Western audience didn't really have much else to watch or read, so they naturally just picked those and became popular. But I don't think that my opinion is that Grisaia Phantom Trigger did not really find most of its popularity through its story. Is my hot take of the week. So I don't know. I'm just not a very big fan of how it's structured. I think the main saving grace is again the audio visuals, but you know, even that is there are clearly some parts where it's budget. So it's I can't really give it an average or above average score, so I'll have to go with a 4 out of 10 here. But it is unfortunate. Um, I kind of wished a little bit better from Grisaia after the original trilogy ended, but Grisaia Phantom Trigger never really my cup of tea. So, you know, it's a little bit unfortunate that it ended up this way. So, but yeah, that was my review for Grisaia Phantom Trigger, a visual novel original done by Frontwing from obviously the original Grisaia trilogy team. And the anime adaptation was done by Biburi Animation Studio. So, if you really want to watch, you know, the wrap up of the Grisaia franchise, although I think they are I'm not sure if they're probably releasing more stuff after this, right? Um, please do check it out. So yeah. And with that, we are on to our news. We have a couple of news. I mean, most like industry news this time. First piece of news: the webtoon industry So I think this is talking about, yeah, mainly the Korean webtoon industry. Um, the According to the 2024 Webtoon Industry Survey published by the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism (MCST) and the Korea Creative Content Agency or KOCA on December 2nd, the Korean webtoon industry recorded sales of approximately 1.5 US billion dollars or billion US dollars in 2023, a
Wow.
19.7% increase from the previous year. This marks the first time the industry has exceeded 1.5 billion US dollars in annual revenue. The market has shown steady growth since they started tracking this data in 2018. Um, wow, in 2017 it was just $258 million, and it ballooned to holy shit! It what is this? It like that's like two. That's like six times. They sextupled in like 7 years. That's
Thank
actually kind
you,
of silly.
Solo Leveling.
Thank you, Soul Leveling. Free and Tower of God. And like what was it?
Soul
God of High
Leveling
School?
Tower God. What
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah, God
Something
of High
something
School.
Ranker Returns. What else?
God of High School or whatever it was. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Most of the revenue 2023 came from platform providers. Obviously, again, this is a big part of like how the digitalization occurs because the reason why this was so explosive and probably manga wasn't because manga still has this sort of like had that like physical or is having this like physical transition over from their physical copies, the magazines, so on and so forth, over to like full digitalization, right? With Karaka, Shueisha, Kodansha, Shugakon, and so on, all kind of releasing their digital platforms, right? And kind of spreading to the masses. But webtoons have not had that limitation because they've been digital since this jump, right? So, and they've had these platforms finding themselves since the jump. So, they could have this explosive growth with digitalization and like spread. Whereas I think manga obviously have been quite, steady growth as well, but it's not been as explosive, I think, as these webtoons. So, um, by export destination, Japan held the largest share at 40% plus, followed by North America, the Greater China region, Southeast Asia, and Europe. So, exploding webtoon industries. So they'll obviously come into contact with the burgeoning Chinese kind of animation industry, as well as the Japanese animation industry is now kind of, I think, constantly looking for new material to adapt that's not completely bottom of the barrel stuff, right? And I think as my prediction, and this is not like a hot take or anything like that, right? Anybody who's been watching the news will realize this. But once they start slowly running out of isekai, naruke, fan fiction, web novels on the Japanese side, right? Once they run out of those, I think Japanese publishers will have two choices. One, they go back into manga and do more of these manga adaptations of these sorts like newer themes, right? Like these more socio-political themes, more like unique series like the stuff like the mountain hiking, stuff like that. Um, which I think the protection committee people don't necessarily want to risk that because they are lazy and they are cowards and they don't want to sink money into that and be like, what? Our unique series didn't make $1 billion. All right, it's over. They're kind of that mindset. So instead, they'll shift full tilt onto, I think, Chinese phone novels as well as Korean webtoons, which will have two effects. One, it'll be another easy source of like eyeballs because they'll be like, oh, this webtoon has 500,000 bookmarks. We should just run with this one. So that's another, easy avenue. And two, it'll have a double effect of attracting the large markets of Korea and China and so on, especially China. And so, they'll make more money too. So they'll probably turn full sail towards that instead of adapting unique manga, which will kind of suck, but you know, that's capitalism for you. Next piece of news here. A little bit of an interesting uh, kind of bent. So let me see this. Why is this not working here? Okay, well, let me see. ANN is like ANN is acting up right now. Apologize. Oh, there we go. So, adult website and hentai has filed within a California federal court on January 6th a motion to dismiss the copyright infringement lawsuit filed against the website by California-based company PCR Distributing. Um, so what's happening is that the way that hentai is trying to dismiss the claims is that they're saying that so PCR Distributing is trying to be like, hey, these guys are trying to do illegal, pirating, copyright, anti-copyright stuff. So we need um we need the court to shut that down, and we need to be able to access the data and stuff like that, right? And hentai is like, well, you guys, that company, PCR Distributing, you guys don't necessarily have the copyright, the copyright owners, right? You guys are not the copyright owners. Why are you guys on the docket trying to barge in here? You guys don't have the the claims to the copyrights that you guys are saying is illegal and you guys are asking for. So they're trying to like, I think they're more trying to buy it for time than anything else. But I think, and they said that apparently Ed Hentai was given permission to post some of like the works in question by the original copyright owner, Jazz USA. So it's a very weird tussle back and forth. Um, I think at the end of the day, probably Ed Hentai will lose this, and they'll have to, proffer the info and the data that they have. But it is an interesting way of biding time.
I think the one argument that they do have like genuine um grounds on is the one where they're like, hey, you guys can't like claim copyright over something that we uploaded before you guys even had the copyright on it. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
exactly.
I think that one's pretty valid, but the other ones I'm not.
Yeah.
The other ones seem a bit shaky.
Yeah, a lot of them
Yeah,
are kind of like
I
trying
mean,
to be legal
part of
loopholes.
it, yeah, part of it is probably just trying to get it thrown out with like standing, but like
Mm.
realistically, because it's like it's like let's say like I took fucking Hentai to court because I'm like, ah man, you guys are breaking copyright law. They'd be like, you don't own the copyright to any of this shit. What are you talking about? And
Yeah.
it's like, while
Yeah.
technically they are breaking copyright law, it's like, yeah, I actually don't have standing to have them in court.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for me specifically to do that. So like that might get it thrown out. Um, but then like the actual like copyright holder, direct copyright holders might just come in anyway. And just
Mm.
like refile the claim, so might not matter, but we'll see.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They'll never touch E,
It's
so
yeah. It's a little bit unfortunate. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Next on the news here, uh we have one of the first, like, not first, but like another kind of major victim of the current ongoing war by Visa and MasterCard against mature content being sold in Japan. So Nico Nico actually announced on Thursday that it's ending its Nico Nico Shunga mature illustration service on January 29th. Company explained that it would be difficult to continue the service due to the current social environment and international situation. Obviously, that's um, it's essentially talking about how Visa and MasterCard is shutting down transaction stuff and like disallow payments from services um, with services like Nico Nico and Melon Books and DL Site and Fontia, stuff like that, due to the credit cards like refusing payments and stuff like that from them. So again, this is having very unfortunate effects across, I think, the general Japanese animation and these sorts of like, especially the doujin industry, because a lot of obviously like if you have official merch, official anime art and stuff like that, you'll have like DMM, Kataka, etc., will find we'll just set up their own online shop and sell it, right? They'll be like, okay, here's a shop we set up on Buy, buy this kind of thing, right? But a lot of smaller places, a lot of doujin artists, independent artists, stuff like that, they use Melon Books, they use Nico Nico, they use DL Site to sell their wares and kind of make their names known as artists, as authors, and shutting this down and kind of disallowing them from making money is, I think, a huge blow to the industry. It's a huge blow to the grassroots of the industry, and it sets a very, in my opinion, pretty dangerous precedent. So,
Now, I will say,
but yeah,
don't get too
yeah,
hasty, Japanese companies. The
yeah,
United States is now the crypto capital of the world, so
yeah, exactly.
you
Yeah,
know, just saying, it's coming your way
yeah.
anyway.
But yeah, we'll see how this is obviously going to spread to other services, but we'll have to see how much, because I think eventually these Japanese companies and the government and the Japanese government will have a talk. We'll set up some sort of like committee and have a talk to see like what's going on. But the question is how many companies will shut down, how many companies will fall before that talk happens. And I think a lot
Well, I
more
mean, it
than we
also
expect
depends
just
too
because
like how they even want to handle that too. Honestly, I would much rather.
yeah.
I would like to see them try and like sue Visa, like these
Yeah,
payment
I think
processors.
some companies
Frankly,
will end up trying to sue, but it's like you're
well, I mean,
also
I think
trying
the
to
Japanese
sue an
government
entire
should.
credit card company.
Frankly,
Yeah,
like
yeah, the
I think
government.
the
Yeah.
Japanese government should straight up just like go after them
Yeah,
because
in
it's
any of
like
these routes. In all of these routes, there's no, for me, in my perspective,
because there's
there
no
is no.
winning, right? Like there's no there, like how are you
Yeah.
supposed to? And sorry to cut you off, but the one thing I wanted to get in was like how are you supposed? Because like right now, you might say like, oh, well, their rules and regulations are like reasonable, right? And it's like, okay, first
Mm,
of all, no, they're not. But two, like they try and act like they are, but it's really not. It basically like Visa and Mastercard at this point, like if like they start being like, do we really want to like process OnlyFans like type payments or Fansly and shit? They'll go out. They'll
mm,
immediately be like, nah, not anymore, and then that'll fucking
yeah,
take out like them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but in general, it's one of those things where it's like, where does that end then? Right? Like when
yeah,
what happens when they decide like, oh, well, actually like donations to certain like just completely benign organizations is also like actually not in our wheelhouse. Or if they go like, oh, we don't actually like processing payments for like donations to political campaigns. Guess, but only
yeah,
for,
yeah, exactly.
specifically like, like coincidentally it's only for like these certain PACs that technically are only on one side of the political spectrum.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
when
exactly.
do you like when does that shit can start kicking in? It's like I really hope that like the Japanese government and just in general like governments start taking a look at this and go, no, you're not allowed to actually like stop payments on shit. Like that's our job. Like our job is to shut
Yeah,
down these like anything that's selling things that we don't agree with. Right? Like,
yeah,
I'm not saying like, oh man, like you should just be able to like swipe Visa on like a fucking Silk Road type thing, but it's like, like that's
mm,
up for then like governments to shut down those marketplaces,
yeah. The
like
important thing
shut
is
down
like working
storefronts
with the
and
government, yeah, and
yeah,
other companies.
and shut down these things. Like I
Yeah,
definitely do not like payment processors just being able to turn around and be like, oh, well, actually, like everyone has their money in this shit. You're actually not allowed to pay for these things anymore, even though your
yeah,
government is like doesn't give a shit about it. But
yeah.
we do.
It's
Like
it's
I
very
think that's a
unfortunate
very
because it's like
scary,
yeah.
scary notion.
Yeah, because it's like the unfortunate thing is, there's no route, there's no timeline in which the Japanese companies can win without having or get anything back without having the backing of uh, governments or the Japanese government at multiple levels, as well as potentially, other governments from other countries. Because um, like without those governments, essentially, whoever in the company, when it's just like between companies, whoever has the biggest beat stick ultimately wins the discussion, right? Like
Yeah.
and in this case, you cannot beat the credit card companies.
Yeah, you can't
Who's
beat a
gonna
payment
who's
processor.
yeah
Like it's
yeah yeah
fucking literally impossible.
yeah. You're
Until
not
America
beating
becomes a
Visa
crypto
Mastercard.
capital fully, and then we just only use
Yeah
crypto.
and then
We only use chunk coin. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Again, I hope this gets properly resolved with discussions sooner rather than later with the government in tow. But we don't want to see all these companies and departments being shut down like this. Next piece of news here, some numbers. The executive committee for the 18th Manga Taisho Awards listed this year's 10 nominated works on Tuesday. So Taisho, for those of you who don't know, the Manga Taisho Awards are pretty interesting, actually, awards because they're not just like collected from artists and stuff like that, or like just from like random voting or whoever. The nominating committee is actually composed mainly of bookstore staffers who are in charge of their respective stores' manga, right? And so they are the ones that stock all the stuff, have read all the things, new stuff coming in, have seen all the new stuff coming in. So they are the nerds, right? So uh it's a lot of these series tend to be pretty interesting and not as mainstream, although there are some stuff that have consistently gotten awards here and there and later end up being pretty famous, like mainstream wise. But a lot of these ones are newer, are up and coming, and we'll probably see a famous anime adaptation down the line. So you guys, if you guys want to be ahead of the curve, right, check out these series essentially. So the nominees here are Alice, Alice, どこまでも by Urino Kiko, 女の園の星, Wayamo Yama, and this was a multiple year nominee. Cosmos, by Tamara Ryuhei, この世は戦う価値がある. By Kodama Hatsumi, Reliving My Life with a Boyfriend Who Doesn't Remember Me, by Shirakawa Gin, Mutsuhana Eiko, and Aika Yugiri. Magas at the Library, by Izumi Mitsu. Dokagui Daisuki, Mochizuki-san by Maruyo no Kamome. This has actually been an up-and-coming series. There was actually a pop-up store recently related to this. Actually, the pop-up store opens today for this, and it's like just about a girl who likes eating a bunch of stuff. And the pop-up store slash collaboration cafe has a bunch of menu items, and usually these menu items are like $20 small parfaits, right? But because this series is about like being a gluttonous eater, all of the menu items are like huge like omelets or like huge like bowls of ramen, like Jiro K ramen and stuff like that. And I'm so mad that I couldn't go there during
Damn,
my
we have to
vacation to
serve
Japan.
like actual food? What the
Yeah, we
fuck?
have to serve actual portions instead of selling one hamburger steak for like 1,500 yen or whatever.
Crazy.
Oh my god. So I'm looking forward to how this series pops up later down the line. There's Dokudami no Hana Sakakoro by Kido Shiho, Girl Meets Rock by Ideuchi Tetsuo and Kuahari, and last, Robo no Fuji by Nabe Kuro. So yeah, congratulations to these. A lot of these, have a lot of these winners have ended up being, very good, unique, like mainstays, like anime of the year, manga of the year kind of contenders. You have stuff like Golden Kamui, obviously, Silver Spoon, Chiayo Furu, Free Ren, like a lot of good series coming out of these awards. So please do check these out. Last piece of news here, actually, one second to last. I'll add in one last news later. But one last news here is IG Port, which is the overall kind of umbrella company pertaining to stuff like Production IG and a lot of its sister animation related companies. IG Port announced on Friday that it's merging the Production IG, the sort of flagship animation studio, as well as Signal MD anime studios. I believe Signal MD is the one that did like webtoons and like smartphone anime, if I remember correctly. Although they did some like a general animation work in later years, but they are being merged together with Production IG becoming the surviving company, obviously, and Signal MD being dissolved. The merger will take effect on June 1st. There's obviously, because they're both sister companies, there's no like transfer of assets or anything like that. This is essentially just like reorg. They're just like, yeah, we don't need these managers. We're just doing it all under Production IG, which is like, well, to be expected. Obviously, years back when IG Port split created a bunch of like smaller companies as like kind of ventures towards like different aspects, like doing web comics, handling licensing rights, doing. I think there was like a digital manga company that they still had. Obviously, they spit out Wit Studio, Mad Garden, stuff like that. That was interesting, but obviously, a lot of these studios are struggling a little bit financially here and there, especially obviously Signal ND, but obviously Wit Studio has had its years where it was struggling a lot. So we'll see if they all kind of come back home to roost under Production IG. But yeah. And last piece of news here. This is a little bit personal piece of news. So what is this? Yeah. So those of you guys might know, but I think last year, right? 53-year-old anime producer Ito Koichiro, who is very famous for being pretty much the producer for all of Shinkai Makoto's works, if I remember correctly. Garden of Words, what is it, Suzume, Weathering with Your Name, stuff like that. All of these. Um, that producer was arrested in late February 2024 for allegedly soliciting a 15-year-old high school girl for nude photos. Um, and he was recommended to serve 6 years in jail. So he has pleaded guilty finally to obscene acts against 3 minors. He's part. He was like, yeah, he exchanged money knowingly with a 15-year-old girl he met on social media on November 2023 for obscene acts, including non-consensual sexual intercourse. Ito admitted to the charge at the time of his arrest. So yeah, um, yeah, I don't be like this guy. And uh, I think
6
also
years
Ito,
is crazy,
You
dude.
you can only
yeah,
do that if you're a state representative from Florida.
yeah, I think this obviously you guys have also heard. For those of you who are in tune with the news, in the last year, I believe Makoto Shinkai is like the studio who has mainly been in charge of Makoto Shinkai's works, right? They've, I believe, I think Toho, right? Toho acquired that studio, right?
Yep.
So there's been a little bit of reorg in terms of how the production has been done with Makoto Shinkai's works, and probably a significant part of that is because this guy is out, right? Because this guy's out of the picture now. So we'll see how Makoto Shinkai's stuff goes on now. But
They're bringing him back
obviously,
on the team like the deep, bro.
yeah, exactly.
He's back.
He's gonna be secretly like under one of the Toho sister companies, like secretly
Yeah.
just like producer. Yeah. Bring the boys back. But yeah. Um obviously don't be like this guy. Very unfortunate for Makoto Shinkai and like obviously them being losing a producer in the supply chain, but obviously um I hope the final sentencing is corresponding with the crimes that Ito committed. So, but yeah, that's that for the news. And now we are finally moving on to our last segment, our shoutouts and callouts. Everybody here gets one shout out and one call out each. Shout out is one thing that you want to praise 5 out of 5 stars. Praise to the heavens. It can be only one person, place, or thing. And call out is the exact opposite, something that you want to insult. Um, Rant about 0 out of 5 stars. And it give you any one person, place, or thing. And we start now with Nier.
Um, Callouts to David Lynch dying. That shit's that shit
Bro.
sucks. That shit's fucking. That shit suck. Um, as for shoutouts, I don't know. I think I'll shout out. Even though I'm kind of cautious about it, I think I'll shout out the fact that like Ninja Gaiden is back. You know.
Oh yes, 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 yes.
They recently announced Ninja Gaiden 4, which is being developed by Team Ninja and Platinum Games in sort of, I guess, collaboration. Nowadays, Platinum Games being tied to a project is not good. It's not really something that brings confidence. But the trailer didn't look terrible. It looked decent in my opinion. Although I'm not too big on the design of the new, the second, sort of main character. But I'm cautiously optimistic. And then Ninja Gaiden 2 got a sort of remaster remake sort of deal. Which is cool. Ninja Gaiden 2 is one of the greatest action games ever made. Even if it's got in a bunch of really shitty versions that water down the experience. While this technically still isn't the original experience brought back, it's at least trying to be somewhat close to it. So respect there, I guess. But it's cool to see Ninja Gaiden's back. I like Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden's cool. So yeah, it's kind of pog.
Yeah,
But
Devil May Cry was back at one point too.
Devil May Cry was back. It was back for one game. And then Capcom didn't do anything with that, so that was cool. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Dark, what about you? Shout out call, please.
I'm gonna shout out. You know what? Fuck it. I'll do a double of it. Like, I'm gonna shout out. Yeah, I'll shout out Zenless Zone Zero for its upcoming two characters of S rank Onbi and Trigger, because they both look cool. Yeah, and they look very fun, and the game itself has been very fun, especially with the recent events are pretty cool, pretty fun stuff. There's a Fall Guys event in it. And yeah, and then my call out is gonna be to Zenless Zone Zero, / Hoyoverse in general. There's another upcoming character, Hugo Vlad, that had a design in a flashback that looked really, really clean, really simple, and really cool. And then they decided, what if we fuck this entire thing up? And his playable model looks like dog shit. So
you don't like his fucking badass fucking fedora, dude?
Okay, so this fucking character. So this character was literally a like vampire, like a boyish like vampire with like spiky hair, or like spikier like hard edged like hair, like short hair, and just like a black like open shirt with like a necklace on, and like black pants and black shoes and like dress shoes. Like his design was super clean and he had heterochromia. And then Hoyoverse was like, okay, but what if he had an asymmetrical coat with asymmetrical badges on his shirt and a tie and a scarf, and the inside of the coat that's hanging off of him, or the jacket rather, that's hanging off of him has a quilted pattern under it. And his hair now has a long ponytail in the back. And obviously he still has the heterochromia, and he also has one glove on his right hand and no glove on his left hand. And a fedora. And it looks like shit.
The fedora part is important. Yeah.
It looks really bad. Like, especially like compared to his old fucking outfit. Like, I really don't like it. Like, I don't know, man. Like, Nier and I were having the discussion where it's like, in especially in Genshin and Honkai Star Rail now, like Honkai Star Rail especially, like their designs are so like fucking bloated. But like this one is definitely, I think, one of the most for HSR, with how like simultaneously busy and yet like really lame it is and boring. Because like this is the playable model. I'll put that in our chat. And this was the way he looked in the story, and like the story sequence that we saw.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah, so they I don't know, man. I think they fucking straight up ruined this character's look. Um,
He just looks like an NPC now. Like,
yeah, I don't know, man. I really think they like screwed up his whole like face, his fucking
yeah, the face is the
hair, his
biggest part because
clothes.
it's like, yeah.
I don't know. I
Oh
hate it.
God.
But who knows? Who
Oh
knows?
man.
Maybe we'll get an alt outfit. Maybe we'll get that. Maybe we'll get a redesign because he's not playable for at least another like I think 2 months, right? Like 3 months, something like that.
Mhm.
So who knows what could happen?
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, and then
Uh,
beyond that, yeah, just like I said, like the new Genshin character looks like shit. Frankly, I think it looks super
okay.
boring. That's a common theme with a lot of Hoyoverse characters as of late in those, and especially in Genshin and Honkai Star Rail. I don't know what's going on in those games, man. But like
Mhm.
Genshin's like one for like fucking I don't know, one in like five characters. I'm like, that looks okay. That looks pretty decent. And then Honkai Star Rail's like one in fucking eight, if not
Yeah.
more.
All right. Thank you very much, Dark, for your shout out call out. Toast, what about you?
My shout out. I'm gonna shout out. What's it called? Tokyo Extreme Racer.
Nice.
Okay.
Get some good streams from that. Or was it Shutoko Battle? Sure, that one. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Looks cool. Good streams.
Mhm. Okay. And your call out?
This year, fuck
What?
2024.
Oh,
Yeah.
2024? Yeah.
To to
Yeah.
to me, it's still rolling over into 2025. When does
Yeah.
Chinese New Year start?
Isn't it like February?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll wait till
Or
February before the
okay.
actual 2025 starts because it's still 2024 rolling over.
All right.
So true.
What?
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Toast. Um, I guess for me, call outs to this like continuing me having to do like doing these like back to back like flu into extended symptoms into cold um into having to drive out in like minus 14-degree weather for a bit. It's sucked for the
I
past X
I
weeks.
like minus 14-degree weather. Do you
Yeah,
prefer
not
hot or
so much
cold?
when I what?
Do you prefer the hot or the cold,
What?
temperature wise?
Oh, do I prefer hot or cold? I'm honestly a bit better with the cold than I am with the heat. Um, like me kind of freezing my balls off and like hurting shoes and stuff like that don't bother me as much as like the infinite heat because with heat it's just like it just looks ugly like because you're sweating your ass off and it's like you can't really like take off all of your clothes or anything like that, right? Um,
Yeah. I just hate
and
the fucking like griminess that comes with heat. It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
exactly.
so gross.
Yeah, it's like, and at best, you're if it's not humid, you're like baking still. So it's like, ugh. But yeah. So call outs.
If you're complaining about the if you like the cold, then why are you complaining about your cold? Ah,
Why?
haha.
God damn it, toast. All right.
Kind of on
Well,
you there. Not gonna lie.
that is true. Um. So, but yeah, call outs to at least my flu, if not the cold. But my shout out. I was gonna shout out something specific. Um, I forget. Oh, I used my there was a Shishiro Botan, Hololive VTuber. idol like collab recently that was selling like ramen bowls and stuff like that. Shout outs to that because I actually ate ramen in the bowl for the first time. It's a good make. It's a pretty fucking solid make, and that's not what I expected usually from these like VTuber pop-up stores and stuff like that, where they usually sell like cheap plastic and so on. It was good make, and I appreciate that. So, proper like wooden and ceramic bowl and everything. Not ceramic bowl. I think the bowl is I forget what make the bowl is, but it's pretty solid. It's like durable. So yeah, shout outs to that. And with that, we are finally at the end of our second episode. Again, we will have, I think, 3 more episodes after this before we start transitioning on to the spring season. But we'll be kind of trying to chug through as much as we can, obviously, trying to dodge. I think we all have a series that we can cover for the end of the year, or sorry, for the until the end of the season, and it's pretty and it'll be pretty okay. But we'll have to see if we have to mix anything up, or if people will have to eat a couple more isekai bullets or whatnot. But yeah, anyways, if you like what we do, we stream our podcast live every other Saturday starting from 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at twitch.tv/4play Animecast. That's with a numeral 4, where we talk about the latest and greatest in Japanese anime, manga, light novels, web novels, visual novels, and so much more. So you can check us out our recording here of the podcast, as well as on YouTube. We have highlights and clips and so on here on both platforms. So whichever format you desire. Um, for more updates and information, you can check us out on our social media platforms on X at 4PP Animecast. That's our handle. Facebook, 4Play Animecast, as well as on Blue Sky now, 4Play Animecast. So check us out here, check us out there, and as always, we'll see you next time.